in the name of our country is happening to people in Gaza. It's unconscionable because if you look every day at the pictures which are coming from Gaza or West Bank, I don't think you can just sit and digest it calmly. My husband is Jewish.
Okay.
So this is question of human dignity, of human rights, of human life. If you are a human, this is your issue. When we come out, it's not just for people over there. It's for our own mental health, because otherwise, how are you going to process the atrocities, the slaughter, the killings which are happening somewhere to other human beings? And what can you do? So yeah, it's definitely is for our mental health to express that we do not agree, and we cannot just sit at home and scream. We have to come out and scream. So people who are responsible, who can do something, will act. That maybe it will propel them. You know, yesterday I walked in the city with a sign which said, "Stand up against killing and starving of children, ceasefire now." And the man who engaged with me, when he was angry, leaving me, he was yelling at me, "You are not making any difference. You will not make any difference." He was very upset with me. And I was thinking, maybe not to you, but actually it helps me.
Welcome to a special edition of the Jaybefaunt channel show, the stream. My name is Jaybefaunt Leroy. So good to see all of you here on this beautiful Thursday evening. The Jaybefaunt channel. It's available on all major podcast platforms, so go ahead and subscribe there. Also part of Revolutionary Blackout Network, so you can see me there on Sundays and Thursdays. If you have not already, go ahead and give a like to the stream. That pushes me out into the algorithm. So thank you so very much for all of you joining this beautiful evening. And if you guys have not also, you guys can subscribe to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. This gives you email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. So you have that ready right there as well. So thank you so much for tuning in. This is a very special presentation. Just wanted to give my shout outs and hellos to people that are also in the chat, wanting to see what you guys are saying. Also, make sure to take the poll. The poll that I have is basically a grading of Biden's State of the Union address. It has A for excellent, B for good, C for average, or F for dumpster fire. I think I know exactly what you guys are going to say. But, so, go ahead. If you guys want to vote early, go ahead, because you guys kind of know already how it's going to go. But, or wait to the end, whichever. But it's fun. So we're going to do that as well. But we're going to say hello to Adam. Adam says, I'm going to go ahead and say dumpster fire. Well, you go ahead and do that, Adam. That is your prerogative. Miguel coming in saying, peace, good to see you. CBC voter coming in saying, what a happy Thursday, JB. I voted the F choice before the speech had even started. All right. Javier says, I wonder if Uncle Sniff, a girl, is going to have an oopsie poopsie moment tonight. Oh, my goodness. All right. Good to see all of you here. Jack Hemmings coming in saying, hi, everyone. Can't take the poll because I haven't watched State of the Union, but I'm guessing that dumpster fire could probably be what most people in the chat choose. Absolutely. Sean Miller coming in from Empire Fires. Damn, that doc. Yes. Empire Fires are doing really good work. Wesley Donaldson says, well, this should be a mind bender. Well, consider your mind already bent. All right. So we're going to talk about that. And then we have Terry Connolly coming in saying, peace, comrades. Good to see you. Let's see. Creative Experiments is in the chat saying State of the Genocide Address. Well, that's another way of putting it. Thank you so much. You have Matt John coming in saying, hey, Rad fam. Good to see you in the chat as well. Leroy coming in saying hello to everybody that's in the chat. Good to see you, Leroy. Who else do we have? We have Retro Gamer coming in saying hello, Retro Gamer. Nice to have you in here as well. Just Me is in here saying peace and love from Toronto. Peace and love from Florida. Yes, that's where we're at, here in Florida. Please do not associate me with Florida man Ron DeSantis. I don't claim him, but Yeah. Mastermind Hour coming in saying Biden is on more drugs at this very moment than I have done since Christmas. Jeez Louise. Oh my goodness. That you guys are hilarious. Okay. And then Robbie says, will there be any disruptions? I hope so. Speaking of disruptions, we're about to disrupt the rest of the stream right now by having my comrades from the RB in Orlando chapter join me. We're going to have for her debut, Sabiha joining, as well as KD coming in, joining for this. Good to see all of you here. Sabiha, this is your inauguration onto my channel. So good to have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. And it's so good to have you. And KD, nice to have you back.
It's always great to be here, man. Always.
Yeah. So my question to you both, as far as your views of State of the Unions, in your view, what would your opinion, and I'm gonna start off with you, Sabiha, what would your opinion of our State of our Union be at this very moment?
Trash, garbage. It's not good.
What about you, Sabiha?
James, can you repeat that question? Because my internet connection went out for a second.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah. So what is your opinion of the State of our Union so far?
Well, I think that we are careening towards right-wing fascism.
Yeah.
So
I'm not sure if you've seen already today, but in fact, let me share that really quick. The opening video I did was from Chuck Modiano. Shout out to him. He does amazing work. He's a great journalist. If you guys haven't, you guys follow Chuck Modi. But I want to share this as well. This is what's going on as we speak in, let me see. Oop. Actually, let me go here. There's some stuff going on in New York, which I saw, and I was like, this is a police state that we're living in. So let me share this really quick. So this is from Truth Army. It says, new police and National Guard are now stationed at New York City's busiest subway stations, assigned to check bags and maintain order amidst the city's significant crime wave. I had asked, what crime wave? And New Yorkers told me there is no crime wave. They said, what crime wave? We don't have a crime wave. That's a bunch of BS. And so here's my thing. And I said this in a tweet earlier. When it comes to, and just, I'm not going to play the sound. This really was sound. But when it comes to what's going on here, I have seen video footage and pictures from DPRK, from Cuba, from China, Vietnam. I have never seen military personnel paroling and standing post at a mass transit facility like here in the United States. Now, what about either of you? Have either of you ever seen that before?
So I used to live in New York City, and yeah, you'd see this every now and again. But it's interesting because I would see it at subway stations in Queens, which is where regular people live, you know, like more working class people. But yeah, I've seen this in New York before. And they'll randomly set up like tables where they can ask you to search your bag as you're getting on the subway.
What about you, Cam, KD?
So I haven't seen this here before, but this looks very familiar to Abby Martin's documentary after the Great March of Return. These checkpoints that are set up in Israel and Gaza for people to basically walk and check in with these armed guards to travel to wherever they need to be. So this again just highlights that the relationship between the IDF and the our American police state is just very identical.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting is that Eric Adams tweeted yesterday. I don't know if you saw his tweet, but he tweeted yesterday. I just pulled it up. It says, "Murders are down, shootings are down, transit crime is down, car thefts are down." So then why do they need all that?
Apparently because somebody hit a conductor in the head with a glass bottle. It's more than enough to basically bring martial law into New York subways.
You know what else is down? Military recruitment.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to share this really quick. I'm not sure if you saw this. This is from Suleiman Ahmed. He said, military personnel in Ohio burned their uniforms and medals in solidarity with Aaron Bushnell. So from what we can see, even the military personnel, a lot of them are also waking up. And so I'm looking at these National Guards soldiers that are standing posts, and I'm just like, bro, what are you doing? It's like, I know it's your job, because you have to follow, the orders that you're given. But it feels like, it's like, do you see what's going on here? Because it's like, even if it's not, and feel free to interject anytime, but even if it's not a problem, it's like, it feels to me that it's trying to get us desensitized or used to having martial law within our country, right? What any of you, what are your thoughts about that? Because that's what it feels like to me.
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with that, considering the number of cop cities that are popping up around the country, not just in Atlanta, but you have one popping up in Baltimore. I saw someone had sent me a map where there was almost a new proposed cop city in every single state. Mm-hmm. And so with our understanding that we're in late stage capitalism, the divide of just being able to live is continuing to increase. And because police sole purpose from their genesis was to retrieve or protect the property of capitalists, that's what they're going to invest in when they know that life is going to start to really see that major divide in comfortability,
Yeah. I want to share this as well. So this is something to look forward to for the State of the Union address. This was actually from Stella Assange, who was Julian Assange's wife. She said, Representative Thomas Massey bringing brother of WikiLeaks founder Assange to the State of the Union. So Julian Assange's brother is going to be at the State of the Union address. What are your thoughts about that? I'll start with you, Sabiha.
I'm always suspect of our congressional representatives, frankly. So I think it's important to bring. I mean, I guess this is a good thing because it will bring more attention to Julian Assange and the attack on free speech and free press. Mm-hmm. But again, I'm just always very suspicious of the true motivations of people in Congress. Unfortunately, I don't really trust what their motivations are. So like for me, I guess when I see something like that, I'm like, okay, I will let this develop before I'm going to get excited about it or think that it's a good thing, especially if it's coming again from the ruling party or the ruling elite.
Of course. Yeah. Katie, what's your thoughts?
I I feel like this is another one of those things for show, because I didn't wasn't Chris Smalls invited to a State of the Union before as well, after his
That's a
victory
good
with
point.
the Amazon unionization, and then following that, Biden gave federal contracts to Amazon, and he did the killing the railroad strike as well. So I feel like this is going to be for show, because what's he going to do? He has Assange's brother there, so now he's going to free him when they get over here. So I just feel like it's just responding to it's reactive. It's like, okay, there was a big showing for Assange's trial, so let me borrow his brother as a prop, so people could think, okay, I see what you guys are saying about Assange, and then of course they're not going to follow through on that. It's lazy for show.
It's kind of similar. It's like political theater, and I feel like it's kind of similar to Kamala Harris and her, we support a ceasefire for 6 weeks. It's kind of just political theater. I mean, I don't know. Like, wait, I would like to see if there's any outcome from inviting Julian Assange's brother. But I'm just not hopeful, I guess.
Understood. Yeah, we don't trust them as far as we can throw them. It's always a political tool for this. It's like, can we take this as a win? Still, you still don't trust them. See, that's how bad they are.
Also, stop pursuing extradition. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's okay. It's good to have his brother there, but is that gonna free him? He's a political prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
Is that gonna really free Julian Assange?
It's the same thing how you just said, that it's to fool people, like how Kamala Harris' giant pause between ceasefire and 6 weeks was. It's gonna fool, or it's a way for Biden propagandists to say, hey, he cares about Assange, he has a brother. Hey, they want a ceasefire. Kamala Harris said ceasefire. It's one of those things that I see it as.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah. And speaking of which, this actually came out not too long, about a day ago. This was drone whistleblowers subject to harsh confinement finally released from prison. The blurb says Daniel Hale was a part of a continuation of the U.S. government's war on whistleblowers under President Joe Biden. And so now Daniel Hale is actually going to be released from prison. So this is actually good news. Though President Donald Trump's Justice Department indicted Hale, his case became first major Espionage Act conviction secured by prosecutors under President Joe Biden. So, of course, they're trying to, get him for that. And it's good news that he is being released. So we have whistleblowers like Daniel Hale that, are going to be released from prison. Should have never went to prison in the first place. Like Misty Winston has said in a tweet. Shout out to her. But yes, I think that is.
Isn't it interesting though? He was indicted by Trump and convicted by Biden.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's interesting. Speaking of which, and I'm trying to make sure I do this as fast as possible before the State of the Union starts. But Donald Trump, a lot of people are saying, oh my God, Trump is going to be different than Biden when it comes to how he deals with Israel. BS. Because we're going to take a look at what Donald Trump actually says and responds to Israel. So this is from Suleiman Ahmad, says, breaking, Donald Trump fully supports Israel's genocide of Gaza. Quote, you have to finish the problem. Seems like Trump's made a deal with Israelis to return as president. So let's take a look at this really quick.
About your policies for a second. As you know, this president of the United States, when it comes to Israel, is getting protested. Now he seems to be turning on Israel. But with the non-committed vote that Biden's getting, they're not going to like you either, because you are firmly in Israel's camp, correct? Are you on board with the way the IDF is taking the fight in Gaza?
You've got to finish the problem. You had a horrible invasion. It took place. It would have never happened if I was president, by the way. As you know, Iran was broke, Brian. They were broke. They had no money for Hamas, for Hezbollah. They were broke. This would have never happened. And for another reason, they wouldn't have done it to me. I guarantee you that. They did this because they have no respect for Biden. And frankly, they got soft. And what happened here is incredible. That should never have happened. Likewise.
About your
So, by the way, it definitely would have happened under Trump.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
And it would have happened. And actually, it probably would have. I think that most liberals would have a more vocal opposition to what's happening now in Gaza if Trump was president right now.
Yeah.
Yep.
So,
KD?
I think the luckiest thing that happened to Donald Trump is that he lost the 2020 election, because all of this stuff all this stuff that's happening right now that would have most definitely happened under him, that would have been remembered as his legacy in his last term. Whereas now he can, this falls on Joe Biden, and now he has a case to regain power again. So yeah, the luckiest thing that ever happened to him is that he did not win 2020.
Amen, brother. Amen. So
it's so kind of arrogant for him, right? To be like, oh, this would have never happened if I was president. Like,
please.
Like caged people wouldn't fight back. Like everyone's looking at what's going on in the United States to make a difference in their own lives. It's kind of arrogant of him.
Yeah.
But par for the course of who he is. I mean, he is a narcissist.
Yeah, of course. So I want to share this as well. This is also some breaking news. This is going in regards to the State of the Union address. This is from NBC News. It says, breaking. In a State of the Union address Thursday night, President Biden is expected to announce that the U.S. military will establish a port on Gaza's coast that will be used to get aid in. This is going to be disastrous, because whenever the United States tries to do something like that, I see ulterior motives. I don't actually see giving actual aid to people. Come to find out that a lot of the aid that they were giving like expired food and little tiny bottles of Tabasco sauce to Palestinians. Like, what in the hell is their problem? Like, these are human beings. Giving them expired food? Like, what in the world? They're people. They're not animals. And yet, this is what our government treats them as. So, in reality, in my view, the United States doesn't see the Palestinians the same way that the Israeli government sees them, which is sick.
And what's crazy that there's still a whole truckloads of food that are still being blocked. So I don't understand what was that to gain of dropping expired food on these people, as opposed to just telling the people who are blocking them from getting the food to get out of the way. I think that would have made them look a little bit better, but they're being lazy because people who vote for them allow them to be lazy like that.
Yeah, I mean, Biden could also just stop weapons, right?
That too.
I mean,
yeah,
he could just stop weapon shipments to Israel and maybe stop all of our taxpayer money going there.
Of course, yeah.
Now,
before we go to the beginning of the State of the Union, I just wanted to share this as well. This is from Jordan Sheraton of Status Quo. He is sharing this live as we speak. He says, breaking ceasefire now, protesters are trying to block President Biden's motorcade from driving to the State of the Union, live in DC. So right now, this is what's going on. I'm just going to share just a little bit because this is.
I don't know if he dropped out or if he's going to grab. I think he dropped out.
so it's just me and you, Cam.
All right, hold it down. We got it. Harvey in Orlando chapter stream.
Wow.
But
So maybe this means that the State of the Union is not going to start at 9. Because what time is it?
Likely.
Because if his motorcade's not even in the building yet, if he's not even in the Capitol building, right?
That's
Yeah.
weird.
I'm assuming they're pushed back by at least 20 minutes, at least 30.
Mm-hmm. Look,
So is this a
am so
delay?
excited.
State of the Union?
Yeah, this is exciting. I'm just like, bruh, like, look, if the State of the Union gets canceled because the ceasefire protesters are like out in full force blocking his motorcade, ha 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 ha, this is going to be a glorious night because nobody wants to hear his demented ass talk about, oh, the State of the Union is strong. Look, hey, man, hey, Jack, look, the State of the Union is strong, okay? Like, I don't want to hear it.
How much drugs do you think he'll be on to do his speech?
How much what?
How much drugs do you think he'll be on?
I mean, there's not any drugs that can reverse cognitive dysfunction.
But,
Yeah,
You know,
but to keep,
take anything just to hold him over for the night.
yeah, just to keep him
That'll
from
make him look
being
that
stuck and
not-
standing and staring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, it's going to be a.
So
I don't know,
what's
they're-
going on the networks though? Like, because if he's not in the building yet, then it's supposed to start at 9, right?
Is supposed to start right now. Yes.
So-
As far as I can tell, I have on the State of the Union on right now. It is live on whitehouse.gov, and they have not taken the card down yet. I'll show you. Because they still have the card up, and you're not taking it down until he's there and he's ready. But they're not doing it. So let me show you. See, it's live, but nothing.
Well,
So if they're going to delay this, then I say beautiful, because the thing is that this shows the power that the people really have to say, we do not want to hear a word from you until you stop the murder of innocent Palestinians that are going on, not just in Gaza, but also in the West Bank too. What's going on in Rafah? Because I think that's really important too.
I think this is a big turning point in American politics.
Yeah.
I remember
And this-
Stein said when October 7th happened, he tweeted the Wikipedia link for the Nat Turner Rebellion. And again, I think things have to develop for us to be able to look back. You have a lot more perspective when you're looking backwards, right, at a moment in history.
Mhm.
But this is a big turning point, I think, also in like American politics. Like, people have had it. People have had it. You know, I think it's maybe, I mean, and I'm hopeful that it's getting to the point where enough is enough. You know, we really do need, we need a government that works for the people, and the government we have right now is not.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of people there's a lot of people that already abandoned the system, and I think there's a lot more that are ready to abandon it. It's just being able to take that energy that is leaving that area and finding us a way to productively use that to bring about that new system that we desperately need. But I too think this is a turning point, and I'm excited to see it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. While we're waiting for Joe Biden to make his way to the White House, I'm sorry, to the Capitol building. Good Lord. Let me share this with you guys too, because this Sunday is going to be the Oscars. And of course, whenever something big happens, you know, in pop culture, something happens to a marginalized people at the same time so that we don't notice what's going on. Let's listen to what this gentleman has to say I think this guy is on point too. Let's take a look.
So most people know that the ground attack in Rafah is going to begin the same night that the Oscars begin, right? Here's what's going to happen. I'm calling an action here. If you are in the area where the Oscars are going to be held, it's time to cause chaos. Not violence, but chaos. I mean, every road blocked, any entryway blocked as much as you can. I don't care if you have to fill the entire street with garbage cans, trash, just leave cars just sitting there. Nobody should be watching the Oscars. It shouldn't start on time while people, children, women are going to be planned to be executed in Gaza. Nobody should be unaware of what is happening to the Palestinians on the 10th, the day that Ramadan, nonetheless, begins for every Muslim around the world. This isn't just an attack on Palestinians. It's an attack on all Muslims. Free Palestine.
So, the same thing that's happening to Joe Biden right now, it should also happen to the Hollywood elites.
Most definitely.
And by the way, just to let y'all know, when it comes to these special presentations, they only have so much time. You know how, like, when they're giving their speeches and they have to wrap up because they have to be done by the time the 11 o'clock news comes on. Well, guess what? You only have a couple of hours. You only have about 3 hours, right? So you only got to block it for 3 hours. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
that's a typical time for a protest, honestly.
You're right.
Can I make a comment about that one video?
Sure.
So, like, I'm a Muslim woman myself, and I want to make sure that, like, the struggle for Palestine, it's not a religious struggle. It's and it's not a struggle. Like this is about Palestinians, not all Muslims in the world. So I want to make sure that we center Palestinians when we talk about what's happening in Gaza and the West Bank, and wider Palestine. I don't think that the discourse should be dominated by non-Palestinians, frankly. So I don't think that this is like an attack on all Muslims. I mean, it is an attack on Muslim people who happen to live in Palestine, but this isn't about religion, right? So I just want to make that clear, just like as a Muslim person, like for it's all of our duties, like all three of us and everybody on the stream and everybody that seeks justice. I mean, it's our duty to stand behind people when they ask us to, next to people if they ask us to. But it's just I don't think we should co-opt that struggle. So I mean that's the only thing, the only comment or the only addition that I'd want to make. Again, just as a Muslim person, I don't want to say it's not my struggle, but I'm not centered, and I shouldn't be as a non-Palestinian person.
Yeah, of course. So, and that's true, especially in regards to, we don't want to erase the Christian Palestinians, the Jewish Palestinians, the atheist Palestinians, all the Palestinians who there could be Hindu Palestinians. We don't know, but the thing is that we don't want to erase them as well. So that's a very strong point, and thank you so much for bringing that out as well, Safiya.
Yeah.
So, Just Me says the State of the Union is on, not according to the White House YouTube channel. Like, it's still, like, the card is still up.
I guess he's still like walking in, like maybe certain news are showing him and all that.
Yeah. In fact, let me do this because it's probably on the corporate media website, the corporate media YouTube channels. That's probably where it's on. Let me see. go to MSNBC, take a look at that. Let me see.
I was just thinking for the Oscars though,
Oh.
this would be
Yeah, they're just showing people just chit-chatting.
yeah.
So it's not really, no. It's just showing people walking in to the building. But it doesn't start until the president gets there, so.
Right.
Is AOC going to wear a tax the rich dress?
It's gonna say,
gosh, don't get me
embrace
started.
the rich. That is what she her new shirt would say, embrace the rich.
Embrace the rich, yeah.
Hug the rich.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as far as like the State of the Union is concerned, you know, when it comes to, like, for instance, and I talked about this before, but people do not understand, like, when people think about the state of our union, they'll talk about things like the GDP. They'll talk about things like oh, we have low jobless numbers, and they are not seeing what those of us who log into our bank accounts on our phones, they don't see how much of us are either barely have a few dollars or are in the red. There's a lot of us, myself especially, don't even have money in savings. I'm like, what is the point of having a savings account if I can't keep anything in there? And so there's a lot of us that are suffering, but it's always this notion that, oh, well, GDP's up. And I'm like, why am I measuring my ability to survive, you know, by how good the rich is doing? It doesn't make sense, you know.
It's just the continuation of trying to legitimize trickle down economics, because that's what GDP reflects. It reflects the you know, how well the capitalist does and how much profit is he making this year.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so let me share the screen.
Who are the job creators, you know, getting all the money they can to
and
create.
You know, we can stop, but I have it muted for right now. But you know, it just goes to show how, you know, I'm just tired of this this notion that every single time when there's a Democrat in office, you have to glad hand and say, oh, well, everything's going good. You know, well, do you want the Republicans to be in power? And it's like, what's the difference? Like, it's like one fish, one fash, two fash, red fash, blue fash, right? That's how it feels to me.
But Joe Biden talks really nice. He's a nice guy. He doesn't say crass things like finish them all. He just continues to supply them with weapons while he says, well, we got to build a port to let aid in.
We wouldn't have to deal with this if the settlements were gone. We wouldn't have to deal with this if the apartheid was no longer there. We wouldn't have to deal with this if the illegal occupation didn't exist.
Yeah. And what's scary is that the logical conclusion of a finish them all, or you have to stomp out Hamas in order for this to stop, that quite literally implies they have to kill every single person there because of what Hamas and other resistant forms of resistance by the Palestinians represent to the Palestinians. So you can't kill off military members or militant combatants and just think, oh, this is over. There's gonna be people left behind that's gonna take up arms and resist some more. So this whole, you have to take out Hamas to end this. It is quite literally implying you have to kill everybody there.
And I mean, Hamas is not the only resistance group that exists in Gaza, right? And there's a lot of resistance groups that exist in Gaza. I mean, it may be the most numerous, which I don't even know. frankly. I don't even know if it's the most numerous, but it's not the only resistance group that exists in Gaza. And if you get rid of Hamas, which I don't know how you could do, but another organization is going to pop up, because anytime you have the boot on the neck of people, they're going to fight back. Like, that's human nature. You're going to fight back.
But yeah, but you're speaking logically. That's basically 1 + 1 = 2. The problem is that, and they know that too. But in order to be able to maintain that power, they have to crush whoever is fighting for their own liberation. And but they don't want you to know that. They want you to think that they're actually the good guys.
Because, you know, whether when it comes to foreign policy, it doesn't matter what party's in office, right? Even in domestic policy, I mean, the policies are dictated by the same people, and it's carried out regardless of who's in power, regardless of whether it's the blue team or the red team. It doesn't matter.
Let me address this really quick, because I want to make sure that we pin this in before we start this. Savitha says, Egypt and Jordan, why can't they send aid or open their borders? Because they shouldn't have to. Because ultimately, it's the Palestinians' land. And if the Palestinians were to all retreat into those countries, then guess what? Let me ask you, would they have the right to return?
Well, and it's also, why doesn't Israel open their borders? Like, why does it have to just be Egypt and Jordan?
Yeah.
And also, you know, I think that, remember there was a coup in Egypt under Obama? Was Mohammed Morsi, who was overthrown, and Abdel Fattah al-Sisi was put in, because Mohammed Morsi was more of a man of the people. And, you know, the people around the world, the street, they don't support Israel. I mean, they support Palestine. The street supports Palestine. And you had an election where Mohammed Morsi was elected. I mean, Egypt is the largest Arab state in the country, or in the world. So you had to overthrow and put in an American puppet in al-Sisi, who's going to tell him to do.
Yeah.
And,
Leroy says, why don't Germany take Israeli settlers? You know, why won't we just take, like, I mean, we can put, you know, I mean, we can carve out Boca, you know, for Israeli settlers. You know, if they want Boca, they can have Boca. I don't care, right?
Or why can't people just stay where they are? And why can't we guarantee security for all human beings, regardless of their religious background or the kind of person they are, or what they like or what they don't like, or how they look? Why can't we guarantee a world like that? You know, so people who are Jewish, who have the trauma of the Holocaust, don't have to feel like, oh, I need to have a backup country. You know, why can't we guarantee that they feel safe and secure wherever they are, and they can be whoever they want to be and worship however they want to worship?
Yeah.
In country.
So, yeah, definitely. Let me see. He made it. Yeah, they probably took a back road or something.
Dang.
Yeah. He's late though.
Yeah.
He is late. But I wish they could have delayed him longer, to be honest with you. But it's just
Chuck Schumer.
Yeah. Chuck Schumer. Did you guys know that he's Amy Schumer's cousin?
I figured they were related.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, he's just as bad of a politician as she is as a comedian.
Yeah.
Yeah, terrible, just terrible. Oh gosh, and my thing is like, I'm just, why is there's a lot of women wearing white? Why is that?
Oh yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
deaconesses.
Remember that one year? I think all the women wore white for what was the reason? I think it was like a Me Too or something like that.
I'm not sure. I know it's like an Arbor Day thing, like you wear white on Arbor Day, but that's
It's today Arbor Day.
I have no idea.
I don't even know what that is.
Um,
Arbor Day? Like a tree?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I just don't understand. I'm just, because if you're wearing it for Me Too, I mean, that would be appropriate for somebody like Joe Biden, because I mean, all you got to do is talk to Tara Reid and she'll tell you her Me Too story in regards to Joe Biden. But I don't think that's the reason, because they're clapping for him.
Yeah. They all look very happy to see him.
Yeah. And then, you know, wait, is that
Marjorie
oh
Taylor
my
Greene?
God. Why does she
Oh, she's wearing
Marjorie Taylor Greene is a fool. I'm telling you right now. She came in here with the Make America Great Again hat, dressed in all red. She looks like she belongs at a baseball game. She needs a flat beer and a cold hot dog in each hand.
She's gonna do another outburst or not?
You know, like, give me your perspective on like how, like, is she really doing anything of substance by just wearing that? Sabiha, please help me.
You cut out again, James. I'm sorry. Can you say that one more time?
I'm just sorry.
No, my internet. It's not you. It's my internet.
It's okay. Can you help me understand the reasoning for Marjorie Taylor Greene wearing a Making America Great Again hat and wearing all red to Biden's State of the Union?
Thing as this is all political theater. She's a clown. She's at a show.
KD?
No, I 100% agree. It's all for display. She is the MAGA Republican, so of course she's got to represent.
Yeah. For me, it's just partisanship, right? It's just, you know, my team, rooting for my team, when in reality, they both, Marjorie Taylor Greene and Joe Biden, are pretty much employed by the same oligarchs. So it's really just a friendly competition between coworkers. That's all I see it as.
Yeah, it's a game of sports. It's a sports game.
It's like a Florida State. Which side are you on? Whose side are you going to cheer for louder?
Yeah. You guys remember the dinner show Dolly Parton's Dixie Stampede here in Orlando?
No.
Oh my God. Yeah, I used to work there. So it was supposed to be a friendly competition between the northern side and the southern side. So it's supposed to be the Union soldiers versus the Confederate soldiers. I know it's horrible. I used to work there. And so when it comes right down to it, you think about it, the whole North versus the South, it wasn't a friendly competition during the Civil War. And yet that's what it was. And when you come right down, when you think about it, that friendly competition really is because we're all coworkers. There's no real competition. This is the same thing. It is what Nick from RBN likes to call a kayfabe, right? This is just theatrics, plain and simple. And so when I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene and all that red, green and red, looking like a Christmas ornament. See what I did there? She just, it's just like, of course you're going to be rooting for your team, and that's it.
But you know, James, this is just a different type of theater. Like there's our girl Nancy Pelosi. Remember during Trump's State of the Union, or one of Trump's little speeches, she like ripped up the paper behind him. Do y'all remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's all just different types of theater. I mean,
but the reason why this theater works because the electorate lets it work. You know, I understand we've been propagandized for a very long time, but they're viewing this as, it's not just these guys that operate as theater and playing it as team sports. The people that support them view it exactly the same, but take it very seriously, which is very, you know, it's disturbing. And it feeds each other. They allow them to be this like fake, and then in return they give them a terrible life.
I mean, I think, you know, and we've talked about this before, but I think that it's also really hard. I mean, like, life is hard, right? And if you're making $10 an hour, you have to work 2 jobs, and you have kids to take care of, and you got to make dinner. You don't have time necessarily to seek out, you know, like what's going on politically. Like, you don't have time to do that. So I don't know if I would blame like the people per se. Although you do make a good point, and Cam, I know you've made the point before that there isn't really an excuse.
Yeah, of course. He's about to start. Let's listen in. Oh, now people are left.
David Joe.
Is that Sean Payne?
Who?
Good evening.
That was Sean Payne.
Good evening. If I were smart, I'd go home now. Mr. Speaker, Madam Vice President, members of Congress, my fellow Americans, in January 1941, Franklin Roosevelt came to this chamber to speak to the nation, and he said, "I address you at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union. Hitler was on the march. War was raging in Europe. President Roosevelt's purpose was to wake up Congress and alert the American people that this was no ordinary time. Freedom and democracy were under assault in the world. Tonight, I come to this same chamber to address the nation. Now, it's we who face an unprecedented moment in the history of the Union. And yes, my purpose tonight is to wake up the Congress and alert the American people that this is no ordinary moment either. Not since President Lincoln and the Civil War have freedom and democracy been under assault at home as they are today. What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not. But Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons that needs to defend itself. That is all. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. It wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall."
Now, just like him too.
Now my predecessor,
So weapons for Lockheed,
former
Raytheon.
Republican president tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable. America is a founding member of NATO, the military alliance of democratic nations created after World War II to prevent war and keep the peace. And today, we've made NATO stronger than ever. We welcomed Finland to the alliance last year. And just this morning, Sweden officially joined, and their minister is here tonight. Come here, stand up. Welcome. Welcome, welcome.
Just to let you guys know, there was actually a promise that NATO would not move 1 inch to the east, and yet from Germany. And now, look, NATO is right at Russia's border. So they lied.
Putin. Send me a bipartisan national security bill. History is literally watching. History is watching. If the United States walks away, it will put Ukraine at risk. Europe is at risk. The free world will be at risk, emboldening others to do what they wish to do us harm. My message to President Putin, who I've known for a long time, is simple. We will not walk away.
In high school at a pep
We
rally.
will not bow down.
What was that?
I feel like I'm in high school at a pep rally.
Yeah, basically.
Like this is what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
A clown rally.
Watching.
Mm-hmm.
Just like History Watch 3 years ago on January 6th, when insurrectionists stormed this very Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy. Many of you were here on that darkest of days. We all saw with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed. America stood. America stood strong and democracy prevailed.
The police let him in. Shut up. Oh my God.
The threat to democracy must be defended. My predecessor and some of you here seek.
What was that?
I personally think that I don't think Trump actually meant for whatever events that happened on January 6th to happen. I personally think he was just feeding his ego. He wanted to rile people up, show that people still loved him, and say, "Hey, march to the Capitol. Show how much you love me," and then use that as like, "Hey, when the inauguration comes around, look how many people showed up to my thing at January 6th versus the inauguration." That's what I think was going on in Trump's head. But yeah, the FBI involvement and the police that let them get all up in there, like that's the way they keep using January 6th as some sort of like this is why you got to keep Trump out and save democracy is ridiculous.
Of course, yeah.
Political violence has absolutely no place in America, zero place. Again, it's not hyperbole to suggest history is watching. We're watching. Your children and grandchildren will read about this day and what we do. History is watching another assault on freedom. Joining us tonight is Latoya Beasley, a social worker from Birmingham, Alabama. 14 months ago, she and her husband welcomed a baby girl thanks to the miracle of IVF. She scheduled treatments to have that second child. The Alabama Supreme Court shut down IVF treatments across the state, unleashed by a Supreme Court decision overturning Roe v. Wade. She was told her dream would have to wait. What her family had got through should never have happened. Unless Congress acts, it could happen again. So tonight, let's stand up for families like hers. To my friends across the aisle, don't keep this waiting any longer. Guarantee the right to AVF. Guarantee it nationwide.
Does he not have the power to make military bases be able to offer those, or federal areas to offer those services? Does he not have the ability to do that right now with his own executive order?
Yep.
Not exactly
So
sure.
it's another thing. They're like,
I think he can at the VA because the VA is under the executive branch.
Okay. Well, they should be
Because
able to. I mean, if they can,
I've heard
give Viagra to.
Joining us tonight is Kate Cox, the wife and mother from Dallas. She's become pregnant again and had a fetus of a fatal condition. Her doctor told Kate that her own life and her ability to have children in the future were at risk if she didn't act. Because Texas law banned her ability to act, Kate and her husband had to leave the state to get what she needed. What her family got through should have never happened as well, but it's happening in too many others. There are state laws banning the freedom to choose, criminalizing doctors, forcing survivors of rape and incest to leave their states to get the treatment they need. Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look, it's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you were right about that.
Didn't he just say a couple of days ago that he never believed that women should have power over their own bodies? Didn't he say something like, "Oh, I always thought my body, my choice was taking it. You know, I never really agreed with that."
he said that a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's full of shit.
But they found out when reproductive freedom was on the ballot. We won in 2022 and 2020, and we'll win again in 2024.
Gosh. Why did I decide to do this?
People, send me a Congress that supports the right to choose. I promise you, I'll restore Roe v. Wade as the law of the land again.
Oh, that is a lie. That is a lie. Because his predecessor, Barack Obama, had the means to do it, and he didn't. He said he was going to do it, and he's not. This is going to be a bold-faced lie in the making. Watch.
The way forward, because I know how far we come. 4 years ago next week, before I came to office, the country was hit by the worst pandemic and the worst economic crisis in a century. Remember the fear, record losses? Remember the spikes in crime and the murder rate, raging virus that took more than 1 million American lives, of loved ones, millions left behind? A mental health crisis of isolation and loneliness. A president, my predecessor, fail the most basic presidential duty that he owes to American people, the duty to care. I think that's unforgivable. I came to office determined to get us through one of the toughest periods in the nation's history. We have. It doesn't make news, but in 1,000 cities and towns, the American people are writing the greatest comeback story never told.
There is so much that he could have did, but he didn't do. Like, for instance, Desert Mansion said it. The $2,000 checks. Where are the checks? Gosh.
Student loans.
Yep.
God,
Higher education.
no one
Invoked
behind.
medical emergency and given us
Pandemic no
all
longer.
medication. They've done that.
Yeah. He could have given us
There's
all
precedent
Medicare.
for that too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Come back. That's what America does. That's what America does. Folks, my inherited economy is on the brink. Now our economy is literally the envy of the world. 15 million new jobs in just 3 years, a record, a record. Unemployment at 50-year lows. Record 16 million Americans are starting small businesses, and each one is a literal act of hope. With historic job growth and small business growth for Black and Hispanics and Asian Americans, 800,000 new manufacturing jobs in America and counting. Where is it written we can't be the manufacturing capital of the world? We are, we will. More people have health insurance today. More people have health insurance today than ever before. The racial wealth gap is as small as it's been in 20 years.
Bullshit.
Wages keep going up, inflation keeps coming down. Inflation has dropped from 9% to 3%, the lowest in the world, and tending lower.
What is it? What?
What'd you say?
I'm just wondering, do they pull these just out of thin air when they say this stuff? I don't understand where he gets this from. The unemployment, the racial wealth gap is even larger now than it is before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it takes time, but the American people are beginning to feel it. Consumer studies show consumer confidence is soaring. Buy America has been the law of the land since the 1930s. Past administrations, including my predecessor, including some Democrats as well in the past, failed to buy American. Not anymore. On my watch, federal projects that you fund, like helping build American roads, bridges, and highways, will be made with American products and built by American workers.
Didn't they already say that last year?
Don't they say that all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not anything new.
Yeah.
Than ever before. During the pandemic, a shortage of semiconductors, chips, that drove up the price of everything from cell phones to automobiles. And by the way, we invented those chips right here in America. Well, instead of having to import them, private companies are now investing billions of dollars to build new chip factories here in America, creating tens of thousands of jobs. Many of those jobs paying $100,000 a year and don't require a college degree. In fact, my policies have attracted $650 billion in private sector investment in clean energy, advanced manufacturing, creating tens of thousands of jobs here in America. And thanks to our bipartisan infrastructure law, 46,000 new projects have been announced all across your communities. And by the way, I noticed some of you strongly voted against it, or they're cheering on that money coming in. I like it. I'm with you. I'm with you. And if any of you don't want that money in your district, just let me know. Modernizing our roads and bridges, ports and airports, public transit systems. Removing poisonous lead pipes so every child can drink clean water without risk of brain damage.
What about Flint, Joe?
Or Jackson, Mississippi. They had a recent issue with their water.
Yeah.
Both of those ran by Democrats.
Yep.
Because of my investment in a family farm, because I invested in a family farm led by my Secretary of Agriculture, who knows more about this than anybody I know, we're better able to stay in the family for those farms and their children and grandchildren won't have to leave home to make a living. It's transformative. The great comeback story is Belvedere, Illinois, home to an auto plant for nearly 60 years. Before I came to office, the plant was on its way to shutting down. Thousands of workers feared for their livelihoods. Hope was fading. Then I was elected to office and we raised the Belvedere repeatedly with auto companies knowing unions would make all the difference. The UAW worked like hell to keep the plant open and get these jobs back, and together we succeeded. Instead of auto factories shutting down, auto factories reopening, a new state-of-the-art battery factories being built to power those cars there at the same.
Are you serious right now? This dude.
Town being left behind. Your community is moving forward again. Because instead of watching auto jobs in the future go overseas, 4,000 union jobs with higher wages are building the future in Belvedere right here in America.
The Railroad Workers Union would love a chat.
A great friend and a great labor leader. Sean, where are you? Stand up. And Dawn Sims, a third generation worker, UAW worker at Belvedere. Sean, I was proud to be the first president to stand on the picket line. And today, Dawn has a good job in her hometown, providing stability for her family and pride and dignity as well. Showing once again,
Hey, James,
Wall Street didn't build America. They're not bad guys.
What was that?
I have a question.
Yeah, by the
What are
way.
what's the minimum wage? What's the minimum wage?
$7.25.
Did it go up since Biden's been president?
No, it has not.
Did he tell us that that he was gonna work to increase the minimum wage?
He
before
did.
He got elected.
He was going to fight for 15.
Oh, okay. Just wanted to
ask,
since he's so pro worker, you know.
Yeah, that's also a good question. And by the way, when he said he was on picket line, he was only on the picket line for 15 minutes. Just to let you know.
For a photo op.
Yeah. Performance issues is not uncommon among men his age.
Tonight, I want to talk about the future of possibilities that we can build together. A future where the days of trickle-down economics are over and the wealthy and the biggest corporations no longer get all the tax breaks. And by the way, I understand corporations. I come from a state that has more corporations invested than every one of your states in the United States combined. And I represented it for 36 years. I'm not anti-corporation.
Oh, we know.
I grew up in a home where trickle-down economics didn't put much on my dad's kitchen table. That's why I determined to turn things around so middle class does well. When they do well, the poor go way up and the wealthy still do very well. We all do well. And there's more to do to make sure you're feeling the benefits of all we're doing. Americans pay more for prescription drugs than anywhere in the world. It's wrong. I'm ending it.
Why didn't he end it? What does he mean he's ending it? When he could have ended it when he had everything at his disposal in his first 2 years. But he's going to end it when it's likely he's going to have a split congressional body, but he's going to end it.
There was a golden opportunity. We had a medical, like an unprecedented medical emergency. Like you could have done so much with that.
Mm-hmm.
You could have done so much with that.
And I want to.
And like, you know, you're going
What to do next?
$35. I mean, you can't. That is still going to be unaffordable for someone. You know, like is a subjective word.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
Lower prices on prescription drugs, just like the VA is able to do for veterans. That's not just saving seniors money, it's saving taxpayers money. We cut the federal deficit by $160 billion. Because Medicare will no longer have to pay those exorbitant prices to Big Pharma. This year, Medicare is negotiating lower prices for some of the costliest drugs on the market to treat everything from heart disease to arthritis. It's now time to go further and give Medicare the power to negotiate lower prices for 500 different drugs over the next decade.
I hope that's also for anti-rejection meds that I'll be needing once I get a kidney transplant.
There's a handful of drugs on that they're able to negotiate. It's only a handful of drugs.
Yeah.
And by the way, the VA, it's a socialized healthcare system.
Thank you for adding that in.
Even for expensive cancer drugs that cost $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. I want to cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 a year for everyone. Folks, I'm going to get in trouble for saying that, but if you want to get an Air Force One and fly to Toronto, Berlin, Moscow, even Moscow, probably. And bring your prescription with you, and I promise you I'll get it for you for 40% the cost you're paying now. Same company, same drug, same place. Folks, the Affordable Care Act, the old Obamacare, it's still a very big deal.
Dear God. That was a giveaway to... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I could have sworn he said he would make a public option, expand a public option, or expand the ACA or Obamacare to have a public option. I remember him promising that in his campaign.
Yeah, he did. You're absolutely correct. He did. And he did not do it.
Affordable Care Act. I'm not going to let that happen. We stopped you 50 times before we will stop you again. In fact, I'm not only protecting it, I'm expanding it. We enacted tax credits of $800 per person per year, reduce healthcare costs for millions of working families. That tax credit expires next year. I want to make that savings permanent. To state the obvious, women are more than half our population, but research on women's health has always been underfunded. That's why we're launching the first ever White House initiative on women's health research, led by Jill, doing an incredible job as First Lady. To pass my plan for $12 billion to transfer women's health research and benefit millions of lives all across America. I know the cost of housing is so important to you.
You know that
inflation keeps.
Trump had a plan to privatize Medicare. It's currently it's being piloted. Trump started it, Biden continued it. So all this is bullshit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you very much for adding that too.
Just for 2 years. And my administration is also eliminating title insurance on federally backed mortgages. When you refinance your home, you can save $1,000 or more as a consequence. For millions of renters, we're cracking down on big landlords who use antitrust law, who break antitrust laws by price fixing and driving up rents. We've cut red tape so builders can get federally financing, which is already helping build a record 1.7 million new housing units nationwide. Now pass and build and renovate 2 million affordable homes and bring those rents down. To remain the strongest economy in the world, we need to have the best education system in the world. And I, like I suspect all of you, want to give every child, a good start by providing access to preschool for 3 and 4 years old. You know, I think I pointed out last year that children coming from broken homes where there's no books, they're not read to, not spoken to very often, start school, kindergarten, or first grade, having heard 1 million fewer words spoken. Studies show that children who go to preschool are nearly 50% more likely to finish high school, go on to earn a 2- and 4-year degree, no matter what their background is.
Are we gonna do anything for the student loans?
You know, this is just odd that he's saying that these are stuff that, we need to do when this is another thing that he promised back in 2020, or at least very much brought up as something that's important to him. Wasn't free pre-K in that agenda and free 2 years of community college? Were those not things that he promised as well, or said he would want to have?
He just needs to finish the job. That's all.
Oh, with like less of the power in Congress that he had before? Oh, for sure. I have faith in him.
See, now you get it.
Corporation in the world. And every new enterprise they bought, they educated the workforce to that enterprise. But none of you do that anymore. Why are you angry with me providing you the opportunity for the best educated workforce in the world? And they all looked at me and said, I think you're right. I want to expand high quality tutoring and summer learning to see that every child learns to read by 3rd grade. I'm also connecting local businesses and high schools so students get hands-on experience and a path to good paying job, whether or not they go to college. And I want to make sure that college is more affordable. Let's continue increasing the Pell Grants to working and middle-class families and increase record investments in HBCUs and minority-serving institutions, including Hispanic institutions. When I was told I couldn't universally just change the way in which we dealt with student loans, I fixed 2 student loan programs that already existed to reduce the burden of student debt for nearly 4 million Americans, including nurses, firefighters, and others in public service. Like Keenan Jones, a public educator from Minnesota, who's here with us tonight. Keenan, where are you? Keenan, thank you. He's educated hundreds of students so they can go to college. Now he's able to help, after debt forgiveness, get his own daughter to college. And folks, look, Such relief is good for the economy because folks are now able to buy a home, start a business, start a family.
Bro.
While we're at it, I want to give public school teachers a raise.
It's like, does he not know how expensive it is to buy a house?
He doesn't.
I mean, does he? Didn't he? Here at HBCUs?
Yeah, he promised to. For HBCUs, I think it was up to $125,000.
Yeah, if you graduate from an HBCU and made under 125K, your debt was supposed to be canceled. And I haven't heard from any of my fellow alumni that had debt tell me that their debt has been canceled.
Interesting.
I'm a capitalist. You want to make or can make millions of bucks, that's great. Just pay your fair share in taxes.
Where has that gotten us?
You see how he didn't say make sure you treat your workers well? Make sure you pay your workers right.
Yep.
Don't steal their wages.
$1 trillion tax.
He's a pro-worker president.
Yeah.
And exploded the federal deficit. They added more to the national debt than any presidential term in American history. Check the numbers. Folks at home, does anybody really think the tax code is fair? Do you really think the wealthy and big corporations need another $2 trillion tax break? I sure don't. I'm going to keep fighting like hell to make it fair. Under my plan, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay additional penny in federal taxes. Nobody, not one penny. And they haven't yet. In fact,
this is a right-wing talking point.
The child tax credit I passed earlier.
What was that?
This is a right-wing talking point about like tax cuts for regular people. I mean, why don't we talk about how we use the taxes that you collect now? How do you allocate that money? Because I don't know a single person that's like, oh, I'm really happy that all my tax dollars are going to buy weapons in Ukraine and Israel, which again is what he started his speech with, right? Is sending weapons to Ukraine. So why don't we talk about the fact that maybe taxes should be reinvested back into our community so we can have things like free, efficient public transportation, parks, community events, healthcare, education. I mean, why don't we talk about that?
Because then we'll look too much like Cuba.
I feel like tax cuts. I think it's a right-wing talking point.
I think so too. Yeah.
Can talk about.
You saw he tried to invoke the child tax credit. That lasted for like 6 months.
Yeah.
That failed under him with Democratic control, and he invoked that in this.
Absolutely, child poverty went back up too.
Increase wages, increase the minimum wage, increase the minimum wage. I mean, maybe protect people's working time so that they don't have to worry about like childcare so much. I mean,
Absolutely.
The minimum tax for billionaires at 25%, just 25%. You know what that would raise? That would raise $500 billion over the next 10 years. And imagine what that could do for America. Imagine a future with affordable child care. Millions of families can get they need to go to work to help grow the economy. Imagine a future with paid leave, because no one should have to choose between working and taking care of their sick family member. Imagine the future of home care and elder care and people living with disabilities so they can stay in their homes and family caregivers can finally get the pay they deserve. Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you.
Stop your. Oh my God. Okay, he needs to stop himself because he was one of the ones that wanted to cut it. In fact, he said it so on that in that very chamber. God.
Not fair. We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no, you guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealthy. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share. Look, too many corporations raise prices to pad their profits, charging more and more for less and less. That's why we're cracking down on corporations that engage in price gouging and deceptive pricing, from food to healthcare to housing. In fact, the snack companies think you won't notice if they change the size of the bag and put a hell of a lot fewer, same size bag, put fewer chips in it. No, I'm not joking. It's called shrinkflation. Pass Bobby Casey's bill and stop this. I really mean it.
I just get so I'm getting kind of tired of this. He's pointing out problems that are existing under his administration right now that could have been addressed when he had power if he cared about getting these things done. And he keeps saying these things, knowing that they're the right things to say, and also knowing that he will not, and if he does win, which I don't think he will, cannot do those things because he's not going to have the congressional control.
Yep, absolutely.
He's just talking.
Again, this is just theater. Exactly. This is just theater. It's like a pep rally. Yeah. He's not going to do any of this. I mean, or maybe what he will do is, he will make sure that a Snickers bar is the same size. I mean, okay. But he's not like this. This is the shtick, like Democrats are going to go up on stage. They're going to be nice. They're going to talk really flowery. They're going to be like, ooh, look at that guy over there wearing red. That guy's really scary. Don't vote for him. Yeah, but then the actions are essentially the same. All we're getting here is flowery rhetoric. That's all we're getting.
Yeah. Stop and smell the roses.
Mm-hmm. It matters. It matters. And so does this. In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
Joe Biden actually deported more people than Donald Trump. So I don't know what these Republicans are actually crying about.
And he gave more money to ICE.
Yeah. Like, he's just like Donald Trump in that respect.
This bill would save lives and bring order to the border. It will also give me and any new president new emergency authority to temporarily shut down the border when the number of migrants at the border is overwhelming. The Border Patrol Union has endorsed this bill. The Federal Chamber of Commerce is, yeah. You're saying low. Look at the facts. I know you know how to read. I believe that given the opportunity for a majority in the House and Senate would endorse the bill as well, a majority right now. But unfortunately, politics has derailed this bill so far. I'm told my predecessor called members of Congress in the Senate to demand they block the bill. He feels political win. He viewed it as a political win for me and a political loser for him. It's not about him. It's not about me. I'd be a winner. Not really.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Lincoln Riley, an innocent young woman who was killed by an illegal. That's right. But how many of thousands of people being killed by illegals? To her parents, I say, my heart goes out to you, having lost children myself. I understand. But look, if we change the dynamic at the border, people pay these smugglers $8,000 to get across the border because they know if they get by and let into the country, it's 6 to 8 years before they have a hearing. And it's worth taking the chance of the $8,000. But if it's only 6 weeks, the idea is highly unlikely that people will pay that money and come all that way, knowing that they'll be able to be kicked out quickly. Folks, I would respectfully suggest my Republican friends owe it to the American people, get this bill done. We need to act now.
What about the liberals that got mad at Trump's immigration policies, laws, and all that stuff? Like, are they going to abandon Biden since he's basically advertising his own plan is in lockstep with what the Republican Party and Donald Trump wants? So where are they at with this?
It's just partisanship, dude.
This is all right. Like this fear mongering about, oh, these illegals are going to come in and kill your kids. I mean, this is right wing.
Yeah, and of course, as a fact that a lot of people don't realize that people who are undocumented actually commit fewer crimes than actual citizens. So they're actually safer than
people.
We are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They're vulnerable people. They're vulnerable people, and they're scared. I mean, this is what passes as liberalism in the United States. I mean, this is not even a center policy. Like this is a solid right-wing viewpoint.
Mm-hmm. Yep, absolutely.
Like my ancestral family in Ireland, some to flee persecution, to chase dreams that are impossible anywhere but here in America. That's America. And we all come from somewhere, but we're all Americans. Look, folks, we have a simple choice. We can fight about fixing the border, or we can fix it. I'm ready to fix it. Send me the border bill now. A transformational moment in history happened 59 years ago today in Selma, Alabama. Hundreds of foot soldiers for justice marched across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, named after the Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan, to claim their fundamental right to vote. They were beaten, they were bloody, and left for dead. Our late friend and former colleague, John Lewis, was on that march. We miss him. But joining us tonight are other marchers, both in the gallery and on the floor, including Betty Mae Fikes, known as the voice of Selma. The daughter of gospel singers and preachers, she sang songs of prayer and protest on that bloody Sunday to help shake the nation's conscience. 5 months later, the Voting Rights Act passed and was signed into law. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
What was that?
And say he didn't want his kids growing up in a racial jungle.
Yes, that's also what Joe Biden said.
Didn't he eulogize suspected KKK, which I don't think he ever really was, but suspected Strom Thurmond and former KKK Robert Byrd. Like those were his friends. Those were his buddies.
Yeah, but he doesn't want you to know that.
Yeah. Funny he doesn't mention that.
No. Hilarious.
The John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Again, another thing he could have passed had he pushed his Democratic-controlled Congress to get that done. Just
of course,
so much stuff that he's saying that he's gonna do when he has less power to do so. It's driving me nuts tonight.
Yeah.
He hasn't mentioned.
I have your.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he hasn't mentioned that at all.
He hasn't mentioned Gaza yet. It's been we're more than halfway done. I hope we're more than halfway done, man, because it's painful.
Yeah, me too.
Bucks an hour. We're also making history by confronting the climate crisis, not denying it. I don't think any of you think there's no longer a climate crisis. At least I hope you don't. I'm taking the most significant action ever on climate in the history of the world. I'm cutting our carbon emissions in half by 2030, creating tens of thousands of clean energy jobs like the IBEW work is building and installing 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Conserving 30% of America's lands and waters by 2030. And taking action on environmental justice fence line communities smothered by the legacy of pollution. And pattern after the Peace Corps and America Corps, I launched the Climate Corps to put 20,000 young people to work in the forefront of our clean energy future. I'll triple that number in a decade.
Didn't he sign that bill that allows for drilling in Alaska? I'm forgetting what the name is.
The Willow Project?
Yeah, the Willow Project. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And he also bombed the Nord Stream pipeline.
Yes, he is the Nord Stream pipeline bomber.
Yep. And he keeps adding money to the military industrial complex, which is a very huge polluter to the
world's largest polluter.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And electric cars are not the answer. We cannot replace every gas car with an electric car. The answer is public transportation.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's gonna, all that cobalt and coltan that we're basically extracting out of Democratic Republic of Congo, that's causing them to suffer, so that's going to be going into those electric cars. And then we're going to try to coup Bolivia again because, well, we need that sweet, sweet lithium. Yeah.
Directing my cabinet to review the federal classification of marijuana and expunging thousands of convictions for the mere possession, because no one should be jailed for simply using or have it on their record. Take on crimes of domestic violence. I'm ramping up the federal enforcement of the Violence Against Women Act that I proudly wrote when I was a senator, so we can finally end the scourge against women in America.
I think the Violence Against Women Act should be a standalone bill and should not have been included with the crime bill. because the crime bill itself was horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Teachers in elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. Very soon after that happened, Jill and I went to Uvalde for a couple of days. We spent hours and hours with each of the families.
Really, was it hours?
We heard their message. So everyone in this room, in this chamber, could hear the same message. The constant refrain, and I was there for hours meeting with every family. They said, do something. Do something. Well, I did do something by establishing the first ever Office of Gun Violence Prevention in the White House, that the Vice President is leading a charge. Thank you for doing it. Meanwhile, my predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president. After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There was his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it.
He said, cut it out. He said, cut it out.
Yeah. Or knock it off. But won't he say the same thing about police shootings, or police brutality?
No, he's calling for an active disarmament of people, and the cops and everyone else gets to keep their stuff. Like I've sort of been going back and forth with how I feel about gun control, but I honestly feel like taking more ways of defense away from the proletariat is going to set the proletariat up for massive subjugation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many here in America. This crisis began on October 7th with a massacre by a terrorist group called Hamas, as you all know. 1,200 innocent people, women and girls, men and boys, slaughtered after enduring sexual violence. The deadliest day for the Jewish people since the Holocaust.
The sexual violence part, that it has not been proven at all. So therefore, that is a bold-faced lie by Joe Biden.
And 1,200 people, a lot of those were military.
Yes. And a lot of those military were also killed by friendly fire from Israel.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
We will also work around the clock to bring home Evan and Paul, Americans being unjustly detained by the Russians and others around the world. Israel has the right to go after Hamas. Hamas ended this conflict by releasing hostages, laying down arms, could end it by releasing the hostages, laying down arms, and surrendering those responsible for October 7th. But Israel has Israel has a added burden because Hamas operates among the civilian population like cowards under hospitals, daycare centers, and all the like. Israel also has a fundamental responsibility, though, to protect innocent civilians in Gaza.
Savvy had talked about on her show earlier that this 17-year veteran was able to say, hey, we have the capability of seeing who we're shooting or who we're bombing with our technology, and that Israel likely has the same technology, and that Israel knows that wherever they're hitting, it's going to have kids and civilians in there. And they've still decided to press on and blow those areas up. So I'm, he can miss me with all of this stuff.
Yeah, basically.
For 6 weeks to get all the prisoners released, all the hostages released, to get the hostages home and ease the intolerable and humanitarian crisis, but just build toward and enduring something more.
What was that, Spiha?
Just for 6 weeks. That's it. After
Just for
that,
60.
after that,
Bombs
get
away.
ready, baby. Bombs away. Exactly.
Yep.
Of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
Didn't
Aaron
they
Bushnell.
exchanged hostages during the ceasefire, but Netanyahu does not want a ceasefire.
Yep.
Because what they want is to rid Gaza of the Palestinians and to take their land. That's what they want. I mean, that's what they want.
Yep.
And I believe there are U.S. troops on the ground there. I think that's what Aaron Bushnell said.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Air Force. The Air Force has
Mm-hmm.
has folks over there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I say this as a lifelong supporter of Israel. My entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here. I'm the only American president to visit Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. There's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I'm talking. Creating stability in the Middle East also means containing the threat posed by Iran. That's why I built a coalition of more than a dozen countries to defend international shipping and freedom of navigation in the Red Sea. I've ordered strikes to degrade the Houthi capability and defend U.S. forces in the region. As Commander-in-Chief, I will not hesitate to direct further measures to protect our people and our military personnel. For years, I've heard many of my Republican and Democratic friends say that China is on the rise and America's falling behind. They've got it backwards. I've been saying it for over 4 years, even when I wasn't president. America's rising. We have the best economy in the world. And since I've come to office, our GDP is up, our trade deficit with China is down to the lowest point in over a decade. And we're standing up against China's unfair economic practices. Standing up for peace and stability.
Unfair? What? You guys actually did NAFTA and then sent all the jobs overseas to China so that they could build themselves up. It's not their fault.
Can't be used in China, not allowing to trade them there. Frankly, for all this tough talk on China, it never occurred to my predecessor to do any of that. I want competition with China, not conflict. And we're in a stronger position to win the conflict of the 21st century against China than anyone else, for that matter, than any time as well. Here at home, I've signed over 400 bipartisan bills. There's more to pass my unity agenda. Strengthen penalties on fentanyl trafficking. You don't want to do that, huh? Pass bipartisan privacy legislation to protect our children online. Harness the promise of AI to protect us from peril. Ban AI voice impersonations and more. And keep our truly sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. That's why the song Support and Help of Dennis, the VA, I signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H, and remind us that we can do big things like end cancer as we know it, and we will.
I hear Russia is actually way closer to curing cancer than the United States. So,
Which country?
Russia.
Interesting. I'm not surprised.
I know you don't want to hear any more, Lindsay, but I got to say a few more things. I know it may not look like it, but I've been around a while. When you get to be my age, certain things become clearer than ever. I know the American story. Again and again, I've seen the contest between competing forces in the battle for the soul of our nation. Between those who want to pull America back to the past and those who want to move America into the future. My lifetime has taught me to embrace freedom and democracy, a future based on core values that have defined America: honesty, decency, dignity, equality, to respect everyone, to give everyone a fair shot, to give hate no safe harbor. Now, other people my age see it differently. The American story of resentment, revenge, and retribution, that's not me. I was born amid World War II when America stood for the freedom of the world. I grew up in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Claymont, Delaware, among working class people who built this country. I watched in horror as two of my heroes, like many of you did, Dr. King and Bobby Kennedy, were assassinated. And their legacies inspired me to pursue a career in service. I left the law firm and became a public defender because my city of Wilmington was the only city in America occupied by the National Guard after Dr. King was assassinated because of the riots. And I became a county councilman almost by accident. I got elected to the United States Senate when I had no intention of running at age 29. Then vice president of our first black president. Now president to the first women vice president. In my career, I've been told I was too young. By the way, they didn't let me on the Senate elevators for votes sometimes. Not a joke. And I've been told I'm too old.
You are too old.
Young or old, I've always known what endures. I've known our North Star. The very idea of America is that we're all created equal. Deserves to be treated equally throughout our lives. We've never fully lived up to that idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I won't walk away from it now. I'm optimistic. I really am. I'm optimistic, Nancy. My fellow Americans, the issue facing our nation isn't how old we are, it's how old are our ideas. Hate, anger, revenge, retribution are the oldest of ideas. But you can't lead America with ancient ideas that only take us back. You lead America, the land of possibilities. You need a vision for the future and what can and should be done. Tonight you've heard mine. I see a future where defending democracy, you don't diminish it. I see a future where we restore the right to choose and protect our freedoms, not take them away. I see a future where the middle class finally has a fair shot and the wealthy.
What was that?
Oh.
Above all, I see a future for all Americans. I see a country for all Americans. And I will always be president for all Americans because I believe in America. I believe in you, the American people, you're the reason we've never been more optimistic about our future than I am now. So let's build the future together. Let's remember who we are. We are the United States of America. And there is nothing beyond our capacity when we act together. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
All right. So let's give our thoughts. By the way, everybody, if you guys have not, please answer the poll, vote on the poll. Basically grades Biden's State of the Union address. It is A for excellent, B for good, C for average, and F for dumpster fire. Please vote F, but you know, whatever you want to do. But what are your thoughts and your takeaway from this? We can get this jabroni out of the screen. Like in the words of Queen Latifah, ooh, ladies first, ladies first. What is your takeaway primarily for?
I haven't watched the State of the Union in a long time. It's been several years, and now I'm like, oh, I know why.
I'm so sorry.
I mean, it's just theater. It's like a pep rally, and it's just filled with just rhetoric. That's, I mean, I don't. It's all, to me, it's all meaningless because none of this is going to be backed up. I mean, half of it is stuff that is untrue, campaign promises that he's made that he hasn't mentioned since or hasn't done anything about since. So I don't. To me, I think I could have gone my whole life without watching this, and everything would have been exactly the same.
Understood. KD.
Yeah, it was getting a bit unbearable toward the end. Well, throughout the whole thing, it was very, very tough to watch. Almost every word out of his mouth, if not every word out of his mouth, was a lie. And at the end, he just started to say good things. Oh, I like equality. Oh, men are created equal. All stuff. Oh, my friend MLK died. I didn't see him eulogize him, but he did eulogize his friend Strom Thurmond. So I don't know how good of a friend he actually was with MLK. But
John Lewis.
Yeah.
John Lewis.
Oh, John Lewis is his friend. Here we go. But he didn't he didn't offer anything of actual substance of what he can actually do to make this stuff happen, other than invoke the same little blue-red game. You saw him doing the little trash talk every now and then. Oh, I thought that's what y'all wanted. Y'all don't want this? Like that's trash talk. I've seen that done in my softball games. Like it's all theater. It's not real. It is not. I feel like he's not even talking to people. He is literally only talking to the people in that room. Especially when he talked about the military stuff with Gaza and Ukraine. He's talking to people in that room, because people outside of that room, the ones that were blocking him from going, the ones that probably didn't even really tune in to watch him speak, they're not in lockstep with him. And so this State of the Union was just a way for the blue and red team to sort of have their little show. The blue team is going to love all the little quips that Biden said to the Republicans, and they're going to just take him at his word. These are things that he wants to do, even though these are things that he could have done when he had control, like congressional control. But it's a game. The people that are playing it are the politicians, and I still hold a bit of contempt for the people that continue to vote for them outside of that, because I don't understand how they don't see at this point that this is a game.
Yeah. I agree. It's just, of course it is a game. I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but I was taking notes for the State of the Union address. I know I was actually paying attention. Jeez Louise, JB. Why would you do such a thing? But one of the first things he brought out was freedom and democracy is at risk. He talked about Putin in Ukraine, so he wanted to get that out there. He's basically trying to create a manufacturing consent so that we can have a big corporate giveaway for companies like Raytheon, Honeywell, and Lockheed Martin. I think you mentioned that as well, Sabiha, was that's basically what it is that they want to continue to keep that money going to the military industrial complex, so that this continues the war in Ukraine, which really, but Russia won for all intents and purposes. So, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a pep rally. It's a pep rally.
Yeah.
Pep rally
and I'm sorry, what was that, Katie?
Well, a pep rally full of lies.
Mm-hmm.
That is also true. Also, he talked about how America founded NATO. And of course, when America finds, something like NATO, of course, it is used as a tool in order to subjugate the rest of the world, especially the global South. And so that's what we see exactly with NATO today.
Yeah.
So the North American terrorist organization. Biden is pushing war with Russia. And then after that, he started fear mongering more about January. I got to be careful what I say. But basically, when a whole bunch of Trump fans decided to take a stroll through the Capitol, he basically, was talking about that. Now, while there were some people that did, die, which is true, who let them in? Because if I remember correctly, those barricades were closed and locked, and they were being guarded by armed police officers until the police actually opened those barricades and let those people in. Then you had a whole bunch of great value Peter Parkers climbing up the walls to try to get in to the Capitol. And they succeeded. And I don't take it really seriously about some dude with bull horns on his head while wearing a furry pants. I don't take that guy seriously as he's strolling through the Capitol.
I mean, it's also like the notion so that the people in Congress don't represent us. That's a fallacy of thinking. So them attacking Congress people or threatening Congress people, it's not like a threat to the people because those people don't represent us. So, it's like they're saying, oh, January 6th was the attack on democracy, but the people in Congress don't represent the people. So it's not, if you're attacking them, you're just attacking them as individuals.
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we've all seen that same article from the Princeton study of how we effectively live in an oligarchy versus a democracy. This where there's nothing to save except for the comfort that your institution is savable. And I know none of us hold that, but the PMCs, the one, even the good-hearted ones, they're just stuck on holding dear to this institution as if it's something that needs to be preserved. This is something that needs to be destroyed, like straight up, like not just abandoned. You got to destroy it. And start up anew.
Yep. Now the next one, lost my spot. So the next one was about Roe v. Wade. Then a woman was denied the IVF, and then abortion bans. Of course, we all know that Roe v. Wade was overturned during the Biden administration. Biden is saying that he wants to, basically codify it into the law. I just hear Barack Obama all over again. Basically saying, "Oh, well, we're going to try to codify it." No, you're not. You're just blowing smoke up our behinds, trying to say that you want to do it when in reality you never will do it. Let's say hypothetically that Biden actually does somehow limp over the finish line and beats Trump in November. He's not going to codify into law, even as a lame duck president, because they want to hold that over the heads of women. They want to be able to say, well, if you don't vote for us, then the Republicans are going to come in, and then they're going to make sure that you don't have a right to your body anymore.
Yeah. And it is, and the White House could turn federal lands into and authorize those to perform abortions. They can do that. I think it's through the Hyde Amendment, but there's a story of CNN saying that the White House secretary was saying, "Oh yeah, I mean, there will be ramifications if we did that." But they can do it. If he wanted to show that he cared about Roe v. Wade and he wants to do it through Congress, like it's got to be passed as a law, and that's not going to happen. Then at the very least, to show that he cares about protecting that right, he could do that. And then if he loses and that's lost from President Trump, that's at least something that they can use. Like, hey, if we don't elect this guy, then these abortion federal lands thing could go away. That's something of somewhat substance to make a case for him. But because they actually don't want to do anything for it, and leave it as some sort of carrot for them to for us to keep grabbing at, it's, of course he's not going to do it, because if people's needs were taken care of and they had nothing to complain about, then I mean, where does that leave capitalist corporatists?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just looking at something because I saw a CBC voter said that C-SPAN has a hot mic. Yeah, they're still showing him talking to people. At this point, we know exactly who Joe Biden is. We know the type of person that he is. We know that he's just really a morally corrupt and morally repugnant human being. He's no different than Donald Trump, and I'm sick and tired of people not recognizing that. One of the things that was also talked about was the pandemic comeback, basically saying that that they came back from the pandemic stronger than ever, which I would say that is also BS, because a lot of us are still suffering from the failure of both Trump and Biden in response to COVID, because ultimately what should have happened was supporting the people to, and some people may get mad at me for this, and it's okay, right? You guys can disagree. But people get mad at me for this, but they should have paid everybody to stay home for 6 weeks, lockdown, canceled rents and mortgages and auto payments, and they should have just locked down for 6 weeks. That's what we could have done. But they didn't want to do that.
Right. I mean, we could have done so much. Even if they didn't want to lock down, they could have done contact tracing. They could have given people sick leave. They could have paid sick leave. They could have said, we're going to quarantine. If you have COVID, we're going to quarantine you, and we'll take care of your bills and your rent and everything for that month that you're at home with COVID. They could have, it was an emergency a medical emergency situation, they could have given everybody Medicare. If Democrats really supported Medicare for all, that was a prime, like it was ripe for the picking. You give everybody Medicare. You could have even done that temporarily and then let somebody else come into power and take it away, and you see how the people will react.
Oh,
right? There's so much that could have been done. Like there's so much that could have been done that was a squandered opportunity. Yeah. And all they did was just say, "Oh, look, we have this vaccine. Take it. Boom, that's it."
Yeah.
You know, when we know that the vaccine does not stop transmission, you know, I mean, the vaccine's like part of an entire system of what we had to do, a public health response. A vaccine wasn't the end all be all, and that's what they turned it into.
Yeah. And one of the things that I also wanted to say was they also could have said, if you don't want to take the jab, then here's other options for you. They could have encouraged other options outside of the jab and said, okay, here's some vitamin D. Here's this type of medication that also helps boost your immune system. This is some of the things that you can do. Hey, have you guys stepped outside and got some sunlight so your body can convert it to vitamin D in a while? Have you been out in the sun yet lately? Well, there could have been so many different things.
And also, you don't tell these large manufacturers that, you know, okay, you have immunity, you can't get sued, but then at the same time you make a profit. So either you make a profit, but then you have legal liability that people can pursue, or you have that immunity, but then you don't make a profit. Like, why are we using this? Like, why is Pfizer allowed to make millions and millions of dollars on people's health? I mean, and again, I'm maybe unpopular to a lot of people, but like, I'm a medical doctor. I'm not anti-vaccine at all. I'm not even anti-COVID vaccine. I just don't think that it's the end all be all. We need other public health measures. And I don't think that drug companies should be able to make money off of medications that people's lives depend on, because there's no amount of money. Like, there's no amount of money that a type 1 diabetic is not going to pay for insulin because their life depends on it. You can't commodify that. And it's immoral and unethical to commodify it.
Absolutely.
Yep. And I feel like people should, like, I don't know if they haven't realized the pattern or not, but our leaders have a tendency to invoke authoritarian means of handling issues that apply to all of us as a population. Like, you take with how they moved around with COVID, and people possibly losing their jobs because they didn't want to take the vaccine. Or if you have with all the protests with George Floyd, their responses to that were increasing the police state presence. Like, their approaches to dealing with our reaction to the ills of capitalism are going to be authoritarian means of response. They're never going to respond considering our well-being. Just like how you guys pointed out all these things that they could have done during COVID to ensure our safety, our ability to live, and our, stopping out the disease. They chose to let businesses and the capitalists still make money during that time, restricted our movement. And then when the vaccine came out, restricted our ability to deny the vaccine, or not. Like, they're fascists. We live under fascists, but because it doesn't look like whatever Hollywood says fascism looks like, or whatever people's perception of what they expect a dystopian society to look like, because it doesn't look like that, people just
assume that it's not.
It's we're not fascist. We're approaching fascism. It's like, no, we're here.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing he talks about a lot was defending democracy. And I just find it ironic because, all three of us live in Florida. There's nobody in Florida that's going to vote in any type of primary because Trump's already the nominee for the Republican side. the Democrats canceled the primary for the Democrat side. So, I mean, what kind of democracy is this?
A one that's worth protecting to be. I don't know why you ain't getting with the program.
I forget.
Absolutely. And even I read this on my channel on Rockfin. If you guys have not, Blood in My Eye by George Jackson is actually a really good book. He actually talks about back in the 1970s that he said fascism was already here.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's talking about fascism already being here since the 1970s, what does that tell you? That means that fascism has been here for well over 50 years. Y'all just ain't felt the true effects of it until now. So, 15 million new jobs?
I don't even.
Really?
When I checked the Bureau of Labor Statistics, I saw projected 3 million jobs to 2038, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know where 15 million jobs came from. I don't.
Yeah. Like what was Joe smoking?
I honestly don't even think that was Joe. Couldn't have been. He was way too animated, way too ready for some slick stuff. Nah, that I don't believe that was him. Not the same guy that was caught staring like at that press thing, like had no idea where he was. There's no way those two are the same people.
They got good doctors.
I don't think his sentences weren't clear. I mean, compare him as an orator, compare that speech to like some of the great orators that we've had in our day, right? Like compare him talking to like Martin Luther King. Granted, he's 50 years older, but I mean, he's leading a country of 330 million people. This is the best we can do. This is the best we got. Is Joe Biden and Donald Trump, neither of whom can really coherently put a sentence together, and both of whom are racists and have accusations of rape. I mean, this is the best we can do.
Yeah.
But it's a democracy, man. The world's greatest.
Yeah. So the racial wealth gap is the lowest than ever. He tripped me out with that one.
Nah, because I know that's not true. I fact checked that in one of my pieces. Is not true at all. Because in there the White House claims that they increased black wealth, which I'm pretty sure that might be what he meant to say, because there had been an increase, although that increase is due in part to black people that already owned property. So that increased, their wealth increased. And then there were businesses was the second part of black that contributed to the increase in black wealth. But again, those apply to the capitalist and ownership class of black people. And the wealth itself went from, I think, 30,000 to 45,000, which is still underneath that salary of comfortability, that average salary of comfortability. It's like 58 or 60K. So, you can say these things. Sure, it is true. Black wealth is higher relative to before, but compared to everybody else, we're still at the very bottom of that list. And the gap between us and white people is much larger now than it was back in the 60s.
Yeah, absolutely. And then he's got onto about unions. Look, the rail workers union, they would like a word with Joe Biden because he does not support unions. He says he does, but he just does not. Having Sean Fain there was just a political prop. If I was Sean Fain, I wouldn't have showed up.
If you were Sean Fain, you wouldn't have endorsed him either.
Yeah. And he's talking about I was
we still have a livable wage. So you can't call yourself pro-worker if you're not supportive of a living wage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Um,
so
he let his own parliamentarian not allow him to add an increase in minimum wage to that
to the must pass COVID bill.
Yes.
Yeah. Then he also talked about prescription drugs. Prescription drugs are still extremely expensive for many of us, you know, what we're in.
That whole thing is a crumb.
Yeah.
That whole thing of, oh, I made 35 prescription drugs when we're available, or whatever that number was, and insulin, and we're going to cap it at $35 a month. That's a crumb. That's a crumb that he's expecting, like, people who are frankly desperate to be like, oh, thank you, you're so great, thank you. That's a crumb. We should demand more. We should demand better.
There are over 20,000 different prescriptive drugs, and he's talking about negotiating 30 of them.
Like, come on, bro. Jeez. Then he talks about doing women's health research.
Okay.
Cool.
That's good.
All
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Then he talks about cracking down on corporate landlords and bringing rents down.
So isn't that what the Democrats tried to act like they cared about when they brought that bill up for hedge funds buying up property? So has he endorsed that? Has he stood behind that? I haven't seen him talk about that.
Whatever happened to, like, okay, so I know the rent moratorium ended, right? Or the eviction moratorium, I should say. Why didn't we do a rent moratorium? Why didn't we do a rent pause? Or they could have just paid our rents for us if they wanted to. Or they could have did a rent and a mortgage moratorium, right? And people would say, well, we couldn't afford it. We damn sure were able to afford that $4 trillion that we dumped into the stock market in March of 2020, didn't we? And yet, we can't do a rent and mortgage moratorium in this country? Seems like a no-brainer.
All the stuff that we can't do, we can't take care of our people, apparently. Richest country in the world, highest GDP, whatever. Can't take care of our own people. So what is there to brag about?
Yeah. And then I'm going to try to get through the rest of this really quickly. You see, access to universal preschool. He's talking about giving more access to 3 and 4 year olds that are going to preschool. Look, I like why that should have been like one of the first things he did yesterday, but yet kids still have to, you know, they're not given universal preschool. And then on top of it, why do kids today still have to pay to get at least their associates and bachelors? Like, why do they have to pay for that?
Yeah. I mean, the universal preschool, that's a great idea. Great. I mean, if he's had 4 years, but you know, that's a great idea. But I also kind of feel like these are reformist policies.
That's also true.
You know, so yeah, it's good. I'll support it, but it's a reform. It's not like a fundamental systemic change.
Yeah, and not only that, I wish I could like remember if he actually promised this or not, but I'm more than sure it's not as, you know, that's not concrete for news, but I'm very sure that he talked about universal pre-K and free community college during the campaign trail in 2020. Like this is stuff that he talked about before when he was trying to get elected then. And the fact that he's still bringing that stuff up now is something that he needs to do. Like, how do people keep letting them get away with this? These people,
big bad, meanie Republicans that are preventing him from doing all these good things.
Yeah,
he's a good guy.
It's their fault. Their fault only.
Their fault.
Yep.
We need more Democrats. That's all we need. That's the answer.
Oh, those
Yeah, look at
bad.
California. You know, California got all them Democrats up in there. Look at how everyone loves living there.
Oh, I know.
Then he also talked about increasing Pell Grants. We wouldn't have to worry about that if we didn't have to worry about actually having student debt.
Mm-hmm.
But what do I know? I didn't go to college because I didn't want to go into debt. Yeah.
Well, maybe if you went to college, JB, you'd be qualified to talk on this stuff. No,
Yep.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm. So basically, talked about student loans, talked about giving public school teachers a raise. Yeah.
Again, good thing, but reformist.
Yeah, reformist. Because ultimately, it's like, yeah, of course, teachers should not have to struggle at all whatsoever in this country, and yet they are.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it, like, we're literally tasking the people who are responsible for helping to teach our children. We're paying them pennies on the dollar, when in reality, we should be taking these subsidies away from the fossil fuel industry. We should be, this may sound wild to some people, but I honestly think that we should publicize the military industrial complex. Basically, take all these military contractors out of the hands of private hands, and then the government should own it all. And then all the money that they save from owning it should go into the pockets of teachers. And not just teachers, but the custodians who clean the school, the people who are at the front offices, the people who are out, advising our children, and then take those damn school resource officers out of these schools, because our kids are not prisoners in the prison industrial system.
Like, I don't know the avenue that one could go to do this, but he never brought up how he was gonna increase the wages for teachers. But can he, like, if he made public schools fall like they're now federal, and therefore the people that work there are federal, say GS pay scaled employees, so they get the benefits of federal workers, and then their GS pay scale is like right there that the government, especially like the DoD, uses for civilian workers. Again, I don't know how the mechanisms to make that happen, but I feel like that is very doable.
But the way that the public school system was set up is that it's supposed to be under local control, right? So it's supposed to be like that decide what their children are taught, how their schools are run. So I don't know how making that like higher up, like taking it out of the local, away from the local level to a federal level, and turn it in terms of making teachers employees. But I think one thing you could do is on a federal level is say, you know what, you're not going to take public money and fund it to private schools. You're not going to take public money and send it to what are these charter schools? I think that's something that could happen, again, within the reformist framework, but that's something that could happen, because you still want, I personally do support local control over the local schools. It's just that when you introduce the charter schools into it, now I'm paying my tax money into the school system, but I don't have a say in how that school system's run, because it's essentially being funneled into a private school that is private, so that they can do whatever they want.
Yeah, true. So the next one is crack down on companies price gouging. Like hell, he'll actually do that.
In 2022, food prices, groceries, stuff like, not restaurant, grocery prices increased by over 11%.
Yeah.
In 2022, that was one of the highest jumps in the 3 years he's been in charge, and post COVID. And that was, when there was decent control, Democrat control of Congress and the White House. And that year, had the highest increase in food prices.
Yeah.
But he wants to do something about stopping price gouging. Now that he has the power.
He's going to make Snickers bars larger and make sure there's more food, there's more chips in your bag.
Meanwhile, the price of eggs is skyrocketed.
Mm-hmm.
I think I did a story I think it was a few months back where Washington State is actually suing chicken farmers, the major chicken farmers like Tyson, Purdue, Sanderson Farms, for their price gouging of chicken and chicken products like eggs. And so what are you doing about them? Right? And somebody said on a TikTok, I think it was, that it's actually just as expensive going out to eat than it is actually eating at home now. And that should not be. It's ridiculous. So the next one, he talked about border security. This is the same guy that also keeping kids in cages. The cages were actually built by the Obama administration, which Joe Biden was a part of. Mm-hmm. Then it was utilized by the Trump administration, and now it's continuing to be used by Biden and his administration.
That whole thing was so right wing. I mean,
that was great.
God, it was disgusting.
Yeah.
Like why invoke someone being killed by an undocumented immigrant like that in the manner that he did too? This young girl was killed by an illegal. How many Americans do you think get killed by illegals? Like, wait, what do you like? Who are you trying to appeal to?
Yeah. That was disgusting.
It was. And my thing is like, if you really want to curb undocumented immigration, then stop tearing apart the countries that they are coming from.
Yep. Again, another authoritarian approach to an issue, which is increasing that border security right there.
We actually need to do the opposite. Like, we need to decrease the military-industrial complex.
That's true. And, one of the things I think that a lot of people aren't talking about, like, for instance, if we were to end the drug war, that would also help the immigration issue, number one. Number two, getting our grubby little hands out of Guatemala, El Salvador, stop the sanctions on Venezuela. All these different things that we're doing is increasing the amount of undocumented immigrants. They're risking their lives to come here to a country where a lot of people just don't even like them in the first place. But yet they choose to have to come here because of things being torn apart in their country, because of the United States wanting to essentially tear apart their country because they want the resources in those lands for the sake of corporations.
It's also like they say that they don't want illegal immigration, but they actually do, because what they want is a vulnerable underclass of laborers that have no protections and that are extremely vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what they'll do is that and this is so nefarious, they'll give them just a tiny bit of more benefits than they will to those of us who are poor and are citizens in this country. And then they make it so that, especially a lot of us Black people, they make us resent the undocumented immigrants for coming here, and then they pit us against one another. That's what they do. And so then there's people who are Black, in this country, especially those of us who are descendants of slaves. A lot of Black people will look down on undocumented immigrants, thinking, well, they're taking all of our stuff away from us, when in reality, it's not really them that's taking it away. It's the corporations and their lackeys in the government that are actually causing this to happen. And so then they don't want you to have solidarity with that person that traveled all the way here from Guatemala. They don't want you to have solidarity with them because they want to keep us divided. And that's what it is. You know where our reparations comes from? Our reparations comes from stop giving money to Raytheon, stop giving money to Honeywell, stop giving money to Ukraine, stop giving money to Israel, stop giving these tax subsidies to Exxon, to BP, and stop giving these subsidies to Big Pharma. That's where our reparations is. And if we really truly care about that, then guess what? We won't attack the people who are undocumented. We'll attack the people who are making it so that they have to risk their lives to come here just to be able to be safer. That's what. Because here, as quiet as it's kept, if you have it good in your country, you're most likely not going to leave.
You don't leave. Nobody leaves their homes unless they're forced to.
Yep.
So they're literally coming here under duress. There are two victims. There are those of us who are working here, as well as the undocumented immigrants. There are two victims, not one. So he also talked about having an emergency shut down the border. He sounds like Trump. It's like if it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then
so he said that he would give presidential powers, including to presidents that come after, the ability to shut down the border at any point if needed. So it kind of sounds like he's not really scared of Trump coming into power and using the power to shut down the border, you know? But yet I'm supposed to be super scared, but he doesn't sound like he is.
Right. Exactly. All right. Then he talked about the Edmund Pettus Bridge.
Theater.
Moving on.
Number 2.
I'm sorry, go ahead, Katie.
I was going to say Selma Part 2, the movie starring Kamala Harris.
The cackle queen herself.
Yep.
All right.
The quote of the day was that little girl on the bus.
Yeah. That little girl was me. All right. So the climate crisis. This dude decided to fund and go ahead the Willow Project, as well as many different oil rigs, approving the oil rigs off our coasts. And so what is he really doing for the climate crisis? Because the thing is, he says he's for fighting the climate crisis, and yet his policies prove otherwise.
Sounds about consistent.
It makes me think of that Mad Soul event that we went to.
Mm-hmm.
And right next to the Medicare for All tent was the Sunrise Movement tent. And I remember one of the people we were going with, Lance had asked them, like, hey, like, oh, well, how do you feel about Biden? And then the dude there, he was straight up like, I'm not really he was still trying to not point out how terrible Biden has been for the environment. And it just goes to show that some of these groups, these new young my generation of people are still very much capable of being Democratic operatives. Like even right then and there, knowing what it is, and he himself couldn't confidently say, "Oh, he's doing great." He had to be very, milquetoast and diplomatic with his critique. And yeah, we have there's a lot of, I don't want to say enemies, but just obstacles that we have in our way, and those are one of them.
It's not even milk toast. It's sour milk and stale toast. That's how bad it is. Ugh. So Joe Biden talked about the Uvalde, Texas shooting, where the police decided to sit out and not go in to actually save the kids. So you want to fund the police? You want to fund these guys who don't even want to actually go in and get the killer before he kills more kids.
Yep.
What?
The people who can claim to be frightened by their own shadow and kill you, they decided not to actually take action when their action was very much required. And the response was another authoritarian response. I don't want to sound like I'm anti-gun control, because I used to be very much like pro. Like I used to hate the NRA. I still don't like them, but this full approach of, we just have to do these red flag laws. Well, what happens when certain people end up on those red flag those lists that might not belong there? Now they are barred from acquiring a weapon.
I don't want to live in a society where only the police and the military have guns.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, there's probably our issue of violence isn't just broken down to a weapon. It is we have a very violent culture. That is something that has to be dealt with internally. The actual addressing the soul of the people. Like just taking away a weapon isn't going to stop people from being violent at all. I have looked at the Socialist Rifle Association. I need to get it with them.
Katie, did you just compare the police to Paksawani Phil?
To what?
Paksawani Phil. That's the groundhog that's always trying to, that they use to try to see if they see his shadow.
Oh, yeah. Them boys are scared of everything.
Are you saying that a groundhog has more bravery than the cops?
Most definitely.
Oh gosh. Oh, welcome to the channel.
Did you all know that NASA has their own police department?
No.
Mm-hmm.
For real?
Yeah.
For what?
I didn't even know that.
Do you know that the VA has their own police department? Every VA hospital has their own police department. Every hospital, I think, has their own. I don't know every hospital, but I know every VA facility has their own police department.
Ugh. Moving on. So, Palestine. So
he still talked about mass rapes. He didn't talk about the beheaded babies, though. So I guess that's progress.
mass sexual assault. The thing is that Joe Biden is making a claim that has no evidence.
Yep.
So when it comes to sexual assault, there has not been actual evidence to say that actually has happened. So when somebody like Joe Biden says something like that is extremely dangerous, because now people are going to say, but the president said, and even though the president is lying.
Yeah.
Yeah. He lied about, he also lied about Hamas using a whole bunch of civilians as shields and hiding in daycares and hospitals and all that stuff.
Lie.
And you can't forget he repeated that 40 beheaded babies lie literally a couple days after it came out.
He's just parroting whatever the Israeli government says.
Yeah. I mean, how far does Netanyahu have to have up Biden's ass to move his mouth like a puppet? I just wonder.
Shoot, maybe that was BB that was controlling him in
I'm saying. I'm just saying.
BB in a Biden suit.
Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing some of the red in the eyes and some of the snarling.
APAC. So throughout his career. So he's paid to believe certain things. He's paid to say these things.
Yeah.
And it's so jarring to still hear them and everyone there clap about his support for Israel. This is after the ICJ, which is, controlled by a whole bunch of ops. But even they said that, this is probable cause to call this a genocide. And we're going to further investigate this. And Israel needs to do stuff to not show that they're committing genocide. After that ruling, there's no consequence to them supporting a genocidal state.
The other thing too is that the first thing he talked about was 1,200 people, 1,200 Israelis were killed, which one, that a huge chunk of those 1,200 were killed by Israel themselves. And then another huge chunk were military. Military is not, that's a legitimate target, right? So again, obfuscating the truth. And what strikes me always is like the scale of death and the scale of destruction is so lopsided, but you're going to focus on 1,200. That's the first thing you mentioned. That's the thing that you emphasize the most. And to me, that sends a really loud message that, and I'm just going to kind of say this, that white lives are the only ones that matter. And I understand, not all Israelis are white and they're not all European. I get the majority of them are, a good chunk of them are. And everyone that's in power is. And I think it just sends a message to everyone else. It should send a message to everyone else, especially if you're non-white, that your life really does not matter. And it really does not have the same value as the life of somebody who is white or European, white European specifically.
He did the same thing when he brought up the Israeli hostages and then didn't even mention any of the Palestinian hostages stuck in Israel, children stuck in jail with no due process. He didn't mention any of that stuff.
Yeah. Yep.
Because like you said, white lives are the ones that matter to him.
Suspicious of this port, like what? I feel like the port is being built as because there's the overt goal of getting rid of Hamas. That's the stated goal. And then there's the actual goal, which is ethnic cleansing and genocide. And I think the port is going to be a port that they create when they complete their genocide and start drilling off the coast of Gaza, because there's gas off the coast of Gaza.
Yeah. And by the way, a lot of people don't know this, but yes, 20% of Israel's population is Arab, but over 50% of the prison population in Israel is also Arab. So that tells you how they actually feel about anybody who is melanin abundant, like these three beautiful faces you got right in front of you.
But JB, don't you know that there are some Palestinian judges that are in highest positions in Israel? There's no apartheid at all. There's nothing of the sorts.
That's like saying America's not a racist country. Look, we have
we had a black president.
We had a black president.
Kamala. You have Kamala.
We have Kamala.
Kamala. Come on, guys.
Yeah. We have Kamala. Mrs. Cackle herself.
No, I figured.
Yeah. And now he's talking about ordering strikes against Houthis.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, the Houthis have not actually harmed physically anyone. Nobody was killed.
But property. And just like US police, we want to protect, they want to protect property more than people.
Oh, well, you got me there. You got me there, Sabiha.
You got it. It's the economy, silly.
Yeah.
You got profit, you got property, and then you got people somewhere down there.
Yeah.
Beneath your boot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Understood.
Wonderful, Sabiha.
Yep. Now he said towards the end, China is on the decline. Is China on the decline?
I didn't realize that. I thought they overtook us, or they're about to overtake us.
Somebody tell that to President Xi Jinping, because they didn't know that.
They got high-speed trains, man. I would kill for a high-speed train. I would love a high-speed train.
And I still don't understand. Well, I mean, I do. I'm just saying this because it just doesn't make sense to me. But this whole push for, I want competition, not conflict. Well, you do want conflict because you're inching it into Taiwan, but also, like, why even stop there? Why not cooperation? I'm pretty sure, didn't China reach out to them to participate in the Belt and Road Initiative that they have planned?
And didn't Nancy Pelosi travel to Taiwan in like a really provocative, warm
to provoke them,
right? And wasn't there something, I don't know, I thought there was something recently about ground troops being sent to Taiwan, U.S. troops being sent to Taiwan. I thought I read that.
My question is, did Nancy Pelosi win her seat already for re-election?
I don't know.
Because from what I can tell, like, the voting day isn't until November 5th. So if Nancy Pelosi stepped down and then now she's running for her seat again, if she is no longer a congresswoman, why was she at the State of the Union address? Why was she on the floor?
I don't know.
Interesting. The world may never know. So, and then the last thing that he was talking about was ban AI voice impersonations, and with the onset of AI, they're not going to do that. But because the corporations know that this is a cash cow for them, so that they can make as much money as possible without having to depend on human beings, but yet they still want us to be able to give them the most money and the resources possible.
I honestly think he's just mad that there are AI voices of him going around saying dumb stuff.
I mean, okay.
Yeah. So ultimately, like, what would you grade Biden's State of the Union address?
Well, it was, if I was a Democrat, it would be a great pep rally for my side. I wish I had like pom-poms and some cheerleaders. Some cheerleaders would have made a big difference.
Yeah, just make sure those cheerleaders stay away from Joe.
I personally would have preferred a marching band.
Oh yeah.
That would have been nice.
Yeah.
That probably would have made the speech. Yeah. I give it an F. You know, it's terrible.
Okay. Well, let's take a look here. How would you grade Biden's State of the Union address? A, excellent. Who voted for A, excellent? What? Oh, Lord. Okay. Then B, good, is 1%. C, average is 7%. And then dumpster fire is 89%. That's out of the 182 votes. Well.
Oh.
You know, it was just a theater. I mean, that's all it was. I guess I'm impressed that he was able to get through the speech.
I'm beyond impressed.
Okay, I'll give you that. That he was actually able to.
I mean, he had difficulty putting sentences together.
He did,
but he was able to. Coherent. It was coherent.
He's reading from a teleprompter, though.
But he didn't. He was able to read.
Okay, I mean, that's a good point.
You got to give credit where credit's due.
Touche, Sabiha. Touche.
We call balls and strikes here. That's what we do.
What's that?
I said we call balls and strikes here.
You know? I'm always looking on the bright side of things.
I love you guys. So, as far as what you guys are preparing for, you know, I know that we are part of the Orlando chapter, and we're trying to get some things going as far as the next action. So, you know, for any of you guys who are watching who are local to the Orlando area, when we do our next action, you know, be sure to continue to look at the channel. I will make those announcements either in a community post or I will do it in a stream like this. So, I mean, we're excited for doing that.
Be sure to come.
Sorry, go ahead.
We're trying to raise money. Oh, we're trying to raise money. We're trying to raise about $1,200. We're trying to put a spring package together for our neighbors who are unhoused. So hold on, I can pull up some of the things that we wanted that we're going to order in our packet or put together into our packet. So some deodorant, combs, ponchos, which I think is going to be really important because it's you know, we have a 6-month rainy season here in Florida, so
yeah,
and we want to buy like ponchos that are reusable, socks, toothbrushes, toothpaste, and we're going to put all these like little drawstring bags to make it easier for them to carry. So yeah, if you're able to, please give what you can and come out. It's really eye-opening and sobering and enraging too. So,
of course, yeah. So if you guys can, then please assist with that, because we are trying to make sure that our unhoused neighbors are better off now than what they were before. So it's much appreciated. I put the link to the Cash App in the chat if you guys can donate to that as well. It's very important because that's what we're trying to do here within Orlando. I also have something else that I want to share as well. We have a comrade that is going through it right now. She does not have water, and she is going through it right now. If you guys can, and I will put her Venmo and PayPal in the chat, but she doesn't have enough money to have water to drink, keep clean, or flush the toilet. So right now she's still shy about $730. So if you guys can shoot some money her way just to assist her with being able to raise for her water bill. She's also local as well. So let me copy link address, and then I'm going to share it into the chat as well if you guys can also help her out there as well. That would be very much appreciated, because nobody should ever have to go without water. It's just sad, because the problem is that we have a country that commodifies some of the most necessary things in our country, but yet nobody seems to think that it's a problem. Like, I don't honestly think that we should have to pay for water, and yet here we are. So I'm sharing that also in the chat as well, so if you guys can help out with that too. So thank you so very much. So now, before I get to the chat, if you guys want to stick around, just let me know. But I know it is late.
Yeah, I'm probably going to.
So, Sabiha, if you would like to if you have anything to announce at all, or if you have any final words.
No, but this was fun. We should do it again.
Definitely,
It was good.
definitely. And thank you so much for coming on. You blessed our channel with your presence.
Well, thank you. Y'all are some of my favorite people. So,
Thank
all right. And
Thank you.
I'm sure I'll talk to you and see you soon.
All right, definitely. Catch you in the text messages.
All right. Bye, y'all.
Right. Bye
Good
bye.
night.
All right. And Katie, so what's coming up next for you on your Substack?
Right. So it's been a minute since I wrote my my last article. I've been just doing a couple things new. Just this past Sunday was my I live in Brevard County, so I don't live in Orlando. For the for the chat, I don't live in Orlando. I live about 45 minutes east. So whenever we do actions, I drive over there. In my city, though, I started a food giveaway myself underneath the name of the Chronicles for Black Political Power. So just this past Sunday, we had a giveaway. I made about 25 meals, handed those out to some local unhoused folks, and that's something I'm going to do just about every first weekend of the month under the name of the Chronicles for Black Political Power. I am currently working on a article about reparations, so that will be the next thing that I have coming out for writing. And I'll try to be consistent because I don't like going this long without writing. It's hard to get back into it once you've been away from it for a little while. So I will try to be more consistent. But once I get everything aligned with how I want to go about with the publication, I have a very more consistent release of articles.
All right, cool. And I put his Substack into the chat for all of you. So there you go. And so thank you so very much for, if you guys have not, you guys can subscribe to his Substack as well. So thank you so very much for that. Katie, it was so good to see you once again, having you on to give your political analysis. You and Sabiha are like the 1-2 punch that I needed for this to help me get through this god awful speech. So thank you so very much.
Well, it's always a pleasure, man. Whenever you want me on, I'm here.
All right. Thank you so very much, Katie Lewis. Have a great night.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. So just to let you guys know, if you guys have not, you guys can also go to my Substack at jaybefaunt.substack.com. That gives you guys email notifications whenever I go live, upload clips, or write any articles. So you guys have that as well right there. And also, don't forget, have you also liked the stream? Please make sure to do that as well. And in addition to, and furthermore, if you guys have not already, I'd like to give shout outs to the patrons on Patreon as well as Coffee, and anybody that sends me any type of support via PayPal. So thank you so very much to all of you for helping me to stay here, to stay, have my lights on, essentially. So thank you so very much for that. And just to let you guys know, yes, my channel is still demonetized. Why? Because I dare talk about what's going on in Palestine, and I showed the footage. So if you guys would like to, you guys can support the channel. You guys can either support via Patreon, which is more long lasting, and it's not as immediate. Or if you guys want to give me something more immediate, that's through PayPal. And thank you so very much. Now, just to let you guys know, as far as PayPal goes, Patreon goes, they both start with a P. Here is the tiers as well, just to share with you guys that too, so that you guys know what is what. So we have JB members, Solidarity, comrades, Jaybefaunters, super Jaybefaunters, super duper Jaybefaunters, and mega Jaybefaunters. So thank you so very much for that. And for any future new patrons, just a big, warm thank you to all of you for being a part of this community. Thank you so very much. So I'm going to go to the chat really quick. I'm going to speak to the peoples, and then we can head on out. All right. So let me share the screen. All right. So Anna Mayer says, much love, JB. Much love to you, Anna. Laura Beza says, oh, dang, the State of the Union address is going on right now. Dang, I had no idea how little I was following these jokes. F for F. I didn't see it. I would have watched with you all. Yes, they could have and they should have. Sabiha for president. Thank you so much for that. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin Roger. He says, yes, the 1970s when democracy was killed and fascism crept in via the 1976 SCOTUS decision of Buckley versus Vallejo that said money was speech, and the 1978 decision of the First National Bank of Boston versus the Massachusetts Attorney General Francis Bellotti that said corporations are people, which is both what the 2010 SCOTUS decision that Citizens United was based on. Laura says we do need to decrease the military industrial complex, DEA, BPS, Homeland Security, garbage, IMF, and the World Bank. Laura, thank you so much for the tip. Says Jay, thank you so much for the tip. And yes, I called her the cackle queen, of course. So let me check here. And yes, thank you so very much for your contribution as well. So let me check on the Rumble side. A non-user said Biden said something tonight. Sorry, I missed it. Cooperation doesn't sell Raytheon missiles. Thank you so very much for that, a non-user. And let's go to the general chat. Oh my God, you guys had a lot to say. Woo! All right. All right. Oh, you're talking about the border. That's for keeping people in, not out. You know what? Something I was thinking about, when you look at a prison, what's typically around a prison? Isn't a big old fence with barbed wire to keep the prisoners in, right? What are they trying to do with the border? I'm just saying. But I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? Maxwell says, but is America truly a safe country? Every single time you increase the price to live, you're making it harder for people to survive, which means that they have to commit crimes of opportunity and desperation, thus making us less safe. Having a system where you make it harder for people to have housing makes us less safe. Having a system where we make less money in order to pay for transportation, for food, for medical care, that makes us less safe. And the thing is that they don't think this because they automatically separate people's needs. It just is sick. And so this country is not safe. All One Same says the brief of the State of the Union is more informative than the actual State of the Union. I was hoping that we would be more educational while debunking a lot of what was being said by Biden as well. Maxwell says Oscar for Kamala. Yep. Desmond Manson says Biden works for the invisible state. How will he will do whatever the invisible state wants him to do? Absolutely. Desert Mantis says and Biden is an environmental disaster. Absolutely. Retro Gamer says Sunrise Movement sold out. Unfortunately, that's what a lot of them do. Collins said, Bill BITCH, Bill McKibben from the 350 movement endorsed Genocide Joe. Environmental groups are complicit in genocide. Yeah. Yeah. Earl of Laurel calls him the Nord Stream bomber. Yep, he is. Let me see. Absolutely. Let me see. Talkish says if a criminal wants to do harm, they will. Yeah. Absolutely. Let me see. Ilhan R says, imagine if Palestinians had a Second Amendment back in 1948, Israel wouldn't exist. Unfortunately, things like this will never end. Rich people don't want you to defend yourself. Yeah, that's true. That's also a really good point. If they actually had Second Amendment or a right to bear arms in Palestine, like we do here, the likelihood of Israel actually existing would have actually been diminished. That's actually a really good point. I appreciate that. Oh, Ravina said Sabiha is beautiful. I will relay that to Sabiha if she's not watching still. Thank you so very much. Let me go. Let me see. Oh. Give Money says enthusiasm is a little lackluster. Enthusiasm for Biden? There is no enthusiasm for that man. Layer of Snark says there's no grading scale for that. Yep. Deborah says Drum Corp. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Just trying to get to people who I didn't get to say hello and talk about. Leroy says 3% hate watching like a mother. Probably, but it's nice to have him here. You know. Oh my goodness. Let me see. V.S. Adams says he was able to read POTUS. Low bar. Absolutely. Sean said it was way too fast. Not a good imitation. He is terrible at public speaking. Well, he used to be good. He used to be able to read more coherently before the cognitive decline set in. But, I mean, he still was horrible. But, yeah. All right, so let me go do this. All right. Bado Smoka says this is the end. The end for whom? I wonder. But yeah. Let me see. All right. Pepper Oceana says, call asylum seekers illegals on stolen land disgusting. That is true. It is disgusting. I mean, honestly, these asylum seekers really are just coming home. I mean, ultimately. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Pepper Oceana. So, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to this special stream. It means a lot to me. I have to get to bed because I have to be up at 4:30 in the morning. I got dialysis in the morning. So, yeah. And look, I'm gonna tell you right now. Let me gently put my kafia back here. Look, Joe Biden tired me out. I don't know about you, but I am sick and tired of hearing that man. How does Jill stand him? How in the world does she sit through hearing him talk? Good God. Like, Joe Biden, he sounds like he should be in a rocking chair in front of a Cracker Barrel telling old war stories. Oh. All right. I got to get to bed. I got to go. I got to go. I got to go to bed. I got to go to bed. I got to go. Because he just, it's frustrating. Anywho, just woosah. I know y'all feel what I feel. And guess what? I grade that as an F. My goodness. Katie says Jill doesn't love him. She's abusing his corpse when he should be home. Right? Goodness, what in the elder abuse is going on here? In fact, and here's the thing. Joe Biden, it's not his age, it's that he's in cognitive decline, right? Because there are plenty of people who are his age that are sharp, right? But somebody that has the cognitive decline that he does, and make no mistake, I also think that Trump is also in cognitive decline too. Here comes the MAGA people coming in to attack me. Trump is, yes, just as much in cognitive decline. Him and Biden are cut from the same cloth. They're virtually the same person, just one is less orange. Trump is just Biden with less bronzer. I'm sorry. Biden is just Trump with less bronzer. See how tired I am? So that's the way it is. Ugh, they disgust me. Anywho, look, I got to get going. But I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Look, water your plants, water yourselves. Leave the world better than you found it. Smoke him if you got him, drink him if you got him. If you ain't got him, then watch something funny because joy is revolutionary, except for the State of the Union address. Leave that to people like me because I don't want you to have to suffer. You should not have to suffer anymore. And I am so glad that Sabiha and Katie were with me because ultimately they made it bearable. Without them, I would have croaked. I would have fell over. It would have been over for me. You guys would have saw me leaving this existence in front of your very eyes. But they kept me here. They kept me here. Anywho, I want to thank all of you. Mwah, forehead kisses. Mwah, another forehead kiss. And mwah, I give you three forehead kisses. Why? Because that's just the type of guy I am. And I love you for watching. You beautiful people out there. Time to take all my clothes off and go to bed. I love you. Bye. Thank you so very much for watching my channel, and I deeply appreciate it from the top and bottom of my heart. If you wish to support the channel further, so I can keep bringing you content that is educational and informative, you can become a patron on patreon.com/Jaybefaunt. You can find that link in the pinned comment or in the description below. No matter what you give, you'll be supporting independent media and education that helps make the world better. Thank you so much, and you can watch more of my content here. Mwah. Forehead kisses, and have a beautiful day.